across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock, and coming up at midnight I want to know from you, how much should Britain be getting involved with this conflict with Iran and Israel? Look, I can give you details to say that we are already involved with the Houthis. We've already been involved in supporting Israel with air cover. We already are involved. But how much further do we go? Because the Cobra meeting has closed. We've been keeping an eye on it to see if there's any statement from that Cobra meeting from our Prime Minister. And the fact there hasn't been one, I always look for what's not said when there are conflicts and when we might be getting involved in them. And we've not heard anything. So I wonder if permission has been given to the Americans to use British bases. For example, Diego Garcia or Cyprus, to name just two. They have the runways in those places to be able to have big planes taking off if they need to do that for these bunker busters. Anyway, if we give permission for him, and they have to have permission, by the way, he can't just, Trump can't just do it, right? So he does need permission. We're involved. And Iran will see us as being involved. Russia will see us as being involved. China will see us as being involved. North Korea, Pakistan. They will take that as us being involved. So coming up at midnight, I want to talk to you about this because literally this is the story. We don't know what's going to happen between now and midnight anyway. Neither does Donald Trump from his own mouth know what he's going to do next. So I want to talk to you about that and see how you feel about any British involvement in this. We've got troops all in that, not very many, but I think it's about 3,000 in total from memory. But I know that troops in Akrotiri in Cyprus have been told to be on standby. Cyprus is positioned where if Iran could strike, it's not much further away than Israel, actually. So they could strike Cyprus if they felt like it, if they still got the capability, we don't know. So look, it is heating up, and whether we like it or not, we're kind of in the middle of it. So what does Keir Starmer do? Kowtow to Donald Trump? Perhaps for steel tariffs, who knows? Or stand up to him and say, you don't have permission to use our bases. So that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls charged at national rate, but we do call you straight back. Before that, we have the wonderful Ed Wiseman going through the newspapers. I can tell you what's on the front pages already. Anna Webb will be here to talk us through the heat wave and cats and dogs, do's and don'ts. Josh Rom is here as well with our entertainment news. That is all, of course, if we don't have to go to rolling news, which we're keeping an eye out. But that is the plan so far. Before that, as I was just saying, Israel and Iran continue to attack each other, and this is war. People are saying, they're not using the word, but for all intents and purposes, this is, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? Keir Starmer chaired a Cobra meeting. We haven't had any response from that. The US president has not confirmed his intentions, saying he may or may not strike. I've seen a message from the Ayatollah saying he is not going to surrender. And Al Jazeera TV have said that nobody from Iran has agreed to go to the White House, that Donald Trump was lying, that the Iranians do not take the knee at the gate of the White House, is the exact quote. So, well, we know already, don't we, the first casualty of war is the truth. So we don't really have an idea of what's going on. But let's look at the region and let's look and see really the logistics of this with one of the best people I know. I expressly requested him this morning when I was talking to my producer, Colonel Paul Beaver, defence analyst. Paul, it's lovely to see. I don't think I've called you Colonel ever, but you are due your title, sir.
Well, I don't think, Petrie, very nice to be here. I'm not really speaking as a colonel. I'm speaking in, my retired life as a defense analyst and an author. So, however, the Middle East has always been a strong part of my life. Iran, especially, I'm lucky enough to have been there before the revolution. I'm that old. I love Iran as a country, as a place of amazing architecture, of some of the most beautiful and welcoming people ever. So I'm watching this with huge interest.
Well, let's first turn to the region itself and our involvement in it. And Cyprus will be a place that you and I have both visited a lot. You can't work with the military and not go to Cyprus, to Akrotiri, because it is such a vital part of British defence for that region. Almost everything goes from Cyprus. This would be a key position for Donald Trump, but he needs express permission, doesn't he?
He does. So this is the sovereign base areas, and there are two major sovereign base areas. One is Episcopi, which is basically it's the headquarters. It's where the army are, where the resident infantry battalion or two of those, with one company usually deployed forward to Jordan. Akrotiri is a major base. It has at any one time at least a dozen Typhoon aircraft operating. It has tankers supporting them, A400M transport aircraft, Chinook helicopters. It's got equipment for Royal Marines in case they have to. You remember what something like 6 months ago we were thinking we might have to bring people out of Lebanon. So there are lots of contingencies in place, nice big runway, lots of parking space. And so, yes, the Americans could base there. The Americans have got bases and basing rights, of course, in Spain and in Italy, in Sigonella, in Sicily, for example, and recently agreements with Greece. There's also Turkey, a NATO nation, which is right next door. And we have to remember it's not just Britain, this is NATO we're talking about. Our carrier task group has gone through the region and is now between India and Singapore. So they're well out of this. But the Americans have already indicated through this, they have an agreement with the United Kingdom to be able to stage aeroplanes. So Mildenhall has become the place where the tankers are going, and also where the F-22 Raptor air defense aircraft are staging through. The crew will probably have some rest, and then they're going to be deployed to Jordan. Jordan's very much on the front line of this as well. So there's a lot going on at the moment, as well as, of course, we're still watching Ukraine. We're watching Russian flights over the Baltic, British aircraft operating out of Poland in support of NATO and in support of our Baltic allies that don't have fighter aircraft, like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. So, boy, are our armed forces busy.
Yeah, and stretched to breaking point as well. Diego Garcia as well. This is a British base in the Indian Ocean. This could very well become an important position as well, couldn't it?
It's ironic, isn't it? The Prime Minister's given away Diego Garcia and a bunch of money as well. And yet, within weeks of doing that, it's going to become a very serious base. The Americans have already got B-52 strategic bombers there. They may well deploy forward the B-21, the B-2, the stealth bomber. The B-21 is the new version of that. I don't think that they will deploy that. And they've got enough ordnance, earthquake bombs and the like, and fly from Diego Garcia. There are friendly relations with lots of countries, but they can fly in international airspace all the way from Diego Garcia to Iran. So I don't see them actually needing too much support. What's interesting is, of course, that there's also a major British base in Bahrain. My understanding is that Royal Navy warships have already departed there. We've got a British headquarters in El Adid in Qatar, which we share with the Americans and with the Qataris. We've got troops in UAE and facilities there as well. There's a a huge amount
of
of
Oman as well.
Yeah,
we have a bit.
yeah.
Just before we move on to what the Prime Minister might have been asked, it would be remiss of me while I'm looking at the map of Qatar and Oman and where all our bases are, our bases of operation in the United Arab Emirates. It's the Strait of Hormuz is really going to be critical in this, and that is, if you'll excuse the expression, Iran's nuclear option, because that is still available, isn't it, to the Ayatollah to completely destroy any opportunity for us to use that strait?
Well, 30% of the world's oil and natural gas, liquefied petroleum gas, comes through the Strait of Hormuz from countries like Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi, and goes out into the Indian Ocean. So there are tankers going, something like 12 an hour. I mean, it's a really busy waterway. It could be mined. It's got some very deep water, which would make it very difficult. But for commercial companies and for their insurers, for example, the mere threat of floating mines damaging ships is very big. Now, Iran has previously boarded ships. You recall a few years ago, it boarded and captured a British ship there. I think it was a foreign crew, but it was British owned. Because they thought it was Israeli. There are all sorts of things that could be done. But that's why the Brits have got mines countermeasures vessels based in Bahrain, in case that very contingency of the Ayatollah deciding that he is going to mine the Strait of Hormuz.
But I mean, if the Ayatollah's got nothing to lose, for example, it doesn't even need to be as like a mine, does it? I mean, if they've got nothing to lose, they could destroy that area.
Yeah, they could. There's all sorts of things. They could sink ships. They could. They could cause mayhem. But that's very much a sort of end game, because Iran also needs, out of the port of Bandar Abbas, for example, in the south, it needs to get out into the Indian Ocean. It still needs to trade. It doesn't have very good relations with Afghanistan to the east, nor with Pakistan to the south. So it's got very few places to go. It does have a relationship via Azerbaijan with the Russians. So who knows what they might do? And of course, the Chinese have mysteriously flown transport aircraft in the last 24 hours into Tehran. So we don't know what they were carrying. But there's still a lot going on. And for the first time, Petrie, we're in a situation where social media is giving you almost real-time pictures coming from Iran. You can see missile strikes, the same in Tel Aviv, where you can see not so many now, but Iranian missiles coming back as well.
How much has Iran been disabled by the strikes from Israel? Because again, we're not getting that information out. Iran is still saying we're going to destroy the world. We can do this. We can do that. But realistically, Mossad seemed to have done a brilliant job on Iran. And realistically, would they not be using those weapons if they still could be using them?
Yes, I think there's almost no doubt at all that the Islamic Republic of Iran's Air Force has ceased to exist. I don't think they have any viable warships. A lot of the strategic launchers have gone. At least 30% of the ICBM and IRBM, so the intermediate range and the intercontinental ballistic range ballistic missiles, have gone. So they don't have a lot there. I mean, I think the big fear that everyone has is that they get and scrape together any radioactive material to create some sort of dirty bomb, which they throw at Israel or somebody. Well, between them and Israel, there's Iraq or there's Saudi or there's Jordan. I mean, this is regional issues. You'd have to take a really big decision to use a dirty bomb. Nobody's ever done it before. Do they really want to go down in history? Because everybody then will pile in on them.
Let's have a look at Donald Trump. He said he doesn't, basically, nobody knows what he's going to do. I wonder if he does. But one thing is clear, that if Israel do want to, and America want to destroy this bunker, they do need that bunker bomb, and Israel just doesn't have it. So they would have to be, it would have to be America to operate that and to drop it on this bunker.
There would. I mean, this is the Fulcrum underground facility. It requires a GBU-20 bomb, which is designed to do this, but it can only be carried by the stealth bomber. So this means that the United States has to deploy its very strategically important asset, the stealth bomber, to do this. And that's a big decision for the commander-in-chief, President Trump, to take. And it probably takes a couple bombs only. I believe the stealth bomber can carry 2 of them. So you would probably want 4 to make sure that 4 aircraft, 8 bombs to make sure that you were actually going to do it. But it's also interesting to note that Israel is also targeting not just places and organizations which are a direct threat to Israel, but they're also engaging with things like the religious police and destroying their headquarters. There's a huge amount here which is going on, which is leading many of us to believe that perhaps Israel is looking for some sort of regime change out of this. You have to remember that Israel has been attacked by the Houthis, by Hezbollah, and by Hamas, all of whom are surrogates of Iran. So as far as Israel is concerned, this is self-defense. Now, how much President Trump believes that this might be some form of self-defense is very, very difficult to know. Yeah,
I mean, they'd be looking for a popular uprising, wouldn't they? That
Yes.
The people would take over. When it comes to the involvement of the US in this, what would Britain be asked, do you think, to do in order to support the US mission?
But can I start by sort of saying what it won't be asked to do? We won't be asked to go and bomb Iraq. Bombing Iran is just not on. This is not what we're going to do. We'll probably be asked for some sort of air defense and supporting role, as we've been doing now for some time.
Yeah.
Operations over Iraq and Syria, for example, Op Shader it was called. There are all sorts of things that have been going on in the Middle East. We're quite used to doing that. It's supportive, but it's not overtly aggressive. So I think that's exactly what you would expect us to do, providing bases, fuel, tankers. Our electronic intelligence is very good. All of those systems that are not generally talked about are at the Americans' disposal, I'm sure. And we work well with allies in the region. Countries like Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia are all, I think, rather fed up with Iran's better case position. So they would not stand in our way. And of course, we have a very strong defense relationship with the Kingdom of Jordan, and we'll do everything we can to defend Jordan.
Donald Trump has made it clear that he wants unconditional surrender, but further to that, he wants then to be able to go into Iran and completely make sure that they have no nuclear capability. The Ayatollah, from what I've seen, has said there will be no surrender.
Yeah, I would imagine that's his position. I've heard the Iranian regime called a death cult. When they first came into power, they allowed 2 million of their own people to be basically gunned down in a sort of Battle of the Somme style trench warfare. They've got lots of people. There's the whole martyrdom thing, supporting Hezbollah, Houthis, Hamas. There is a huge sheer Islamic fundamentalist attitude to all of that. I think people like the Ayatollah will fight to the death. I mean, they will not want to surrender. They certainly won't want any American troops there to do inspections. Even the International Atomic Energy Authority is going to have difficulty, I think, with this. And we all know Iran is probably 2 years away from viable nuclear weapon, but they may well have been using all of their delivery systems, their missiles. So who knows what Israel has done? I'm afraid we're going to have to sit this out for a few more days.
So with no surrender in sight, what does the next few days look like? Because, of course, Donald Trump would have us believe that they're begging to go and talk to him. They're denying that. Al Jazeera TV is saying it's a lie. There's no way we would take the knee at the White House gate. There's a lot of rhetoric going on at the moment. Somewhere in there is some truth, but I can't find it.
No, I agree with you. I think it's very difficult to know exactly what's going on, and I'm sure that the security service, the Defence Intelligence Staff, the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office were busy briefing the Prime Minister in Cobra today and saying, look, Prime Minister, we're not actually sure exactly what's happening. This is our best estimate of what's happening. This is our assessment of what's there through the Joint Intelligence Committee. And then it will be, well, Prime Minister, this is up to you to make a decision as to what we do now. But Petrie, I just don't see us wanting to get involved in this. We are stretched. Our typhoons are
let me just quickly ask
all over the place.
Let me just quickly ask you then, if Iran were to bomb an American ship or an American base or whatever, is that then, does Article 5 get triggered? Do we get dragged into another Iraqi war?
No, it's not Article 5 in the sense of NATO, but it's Article 4 in the sense of the United Nations Charter and its self-defense. So the United States can then retaliate.
But would we be dragged into that?
No, don't have to be with that. That will be purely an American thing. And I think that President Trump will want to take all the glory himself for whatever happens. He doesn't. I don't think that President Trump considers having the Brits involved in this other than the supporting role that we do with our allies, as we do with all of our allies, whether it's Canada or Germany or France or whatever, with this. No, I don't see us flying shoulder to shoulder with the Americans and bombing Tehran. That's not on.
And finally, if I can, Russia's been fairly quiet about this. North Korea has been I don't like quiet from these countries, because normally they're all jaw. So we've got Russia, China, North Korea, Pakistan. Pakistan has already said if there's any nuclear, then they're going to go in with nuclear. The others, though, we really don't know what they're planning and thinking. They want Iran to stay as it is under the Ayatollah. Either way, that looks unlikely. What will they do?
So Iran is a very good supply of weapons to Russia for the war in Ukraine. North Korea has found Iran really good as a customer for its ballistic missiles. Most of the missiles fired are of North Korean origin, some with a bit of Pakistan and China connections to those as well. So these people will, at the moment, they'll be looking and saying, well, how come all of our wonderful missiles are being intercepted by the Israelis? And they'll be going, well, they're not perhaps as invincible as we thought they were. We need to go back to the drawing board. I think that they're quiet because they're a little bit on the back foot, having seen a barrage of Iranian missiles from those countries, countries of origin that have supplied Iran, getting intercepted, and life in Tel Aviv or Haifa is just the same as normal.
Paul, it's always such a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Paul Beaver there, defence analyst, and a very, very good voice on this region. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. Coming up at midnight, I want to talk to you about the situation in Iran and how much do you think that we should or should not be getting involved? We're already kind of involved. I hate to break it to you. We've been doing a lot of support stuff with Israel, and now Donald Trump is going to be asking us to support him if he gets involved. We've got soldiers out there, we've got aircraft out there, we've got airmen and women out there, we've got sailors out there in Bahrain as well. There's a major Navy grouping there in Bahrain. So we're already there. How much should we get involved? And also make no mistake about this, even if we just offer operational support, that will be seen as support, right? So do we just say, look, Trump, if you want to do this, do it. This is not part of NATO. This is nothing to do with us. You just crack on. And if you want to do that, find another air base, refuel somewhere else. We don't want a bar of this. Because Cyprus is not far from Israel. If you look at the map, it's really not far at all. So if Iran does still have any weapons, it says it has. Of course, it would say that. There's been threats on Iranian TV that they're going to mount some big attack overnight. But then that's what Iranian TV does. But we could get dragged into this because, and do you trust Keir Starmer to keep us out of it? Is he going to stand up to Donny and say, look, mate, we're not getting involved. You're on your own. You're on your own. It's a bit late for us to say that, though, because we have been involved. So give me a call. That's the phone in at midnight. How much should we get involved? 0344 499 1000, and you can message me as well. Text the word talk and then your message to 87222.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good evening to you. This is Talk. I am keeping an eye on all the monitors that are around me, but we are going to deviate from the main topic of the day now to something a little bit lighter. Let's lighten this up. And Josh Rom is here, entertainment journalist, and you're going to talk about the Gilded Age, which I love.
I love it too.
I love it.
Let's be honest, Petrie, we all need a distraction at the moment.
We do.
Especially, you know, I've just come back from the Holy Land myself, literally landed Thursday night, 8:30 p.m, probably
before it all kicked off.
One of the last flights coming home, at least the last flight into Luton. I think there was one more from Heathrow after me and another one from Gatwick, and I was literally unpacking my suitcase at home when it all started, when it all kicked off. So, you know, to come on air tonight and speak about a drama that I love, particularly at a time where this international news story is deeply impacting me. I've got family out there, I've got friends there, I've got a stake in the game, so to speak. You know, I need this distraction, quite frankly.
Yeah, just before we get into the distraction, though, I've got some breaking news here. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that US President Donald Trump has told senior aides that he approves of US attack plans for Iran. Apparently, he was holding off on giving the go-ahead to see if Tehran would abandon its nuclear program. And there'll be more on that as we go through the evening, I suspect. So if there's anything breaks, we will bring it to you first. There's no need to go anywhere else. Meantime,
yes,
the Gilded Age. Let's go back in time to a Gilded Age.
We are going back in time to 1880s New York. Of course, this is the hit drama written by Julian Fellowes, Lord Julian Fellowes, the creator of Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, sorry.
Well, I mean, listen, Bridgerton, Downton Abbey, both hugely popular period dramas. So, listen, I love them both. Easy. I get mixed up myself sometimes.
I really did enjoy the Gilded Age. I thought it was very good.
Well, get ready because we've got it's coming back for its third season. Let's take a little sneak peek about what's to come before we get into some of these exclusive cast chats.
What I particularly like about this is how this is a battle between old money and new money, because at this period of time in New York, people were making so much money, and they were seen as being rather vulgar, and they wanted into the rich society, but rich society who was broke, by the way, which is pretty much the truth today, didn't want them in, so they would have to buy their way. It's that for me. It's about the class system, and which this period in time, of course, knocked away the class system completely.
Of course, because
we still have it, but they don't.
This was you actually do kind of see the American dream. So, for example, you see a servant with a business product, and he has,
is that the alarm clock?
Yes, with the patent, and you see what becomes of him, and it's the American dream. It's the rise of the entrepreneur. This is kind of showing the American dream in its infancy, American capitalism, that anybody can make it.
It's brilliant.
But you've got, this is the beautiful thing about what Lord Julian Fellowes does so well, is you've still got the upstairs downstairs dynamic from Downton Abbey, and you've got this dowager countess type character played by Christine Baranski. But then you've got, again, you say the old money, new money dynamics of the tradespeople, the rich tycoons, the railroad tycoons coming into this, and that's what makes it so interesting. But what season 3 does, it tests the characters to their limits. But of course, Julian Fellowes does have Downton Abbey coming out later this year, which I know you and I are both so excited about. But I took this opportunity to ask him because, of course, it's not just Downton Abbey. I also think of his work in Gosford Park. He's really, when you think of period dramas, UK period dramas in both film and television, you can't help but think of Lord Julian Fellowes. He's really shaped period as a genre. So I kind of wanted to get into that, and I asked him, is there something that he's learned over the years? Is there something that when he writes his drama now, does he avoid, especially of course because he's got a rather big project coming out in cinemas later on this year as well, and this is what he had to say.
I think as I've lived my life, I've changed my views about certain things, and I'm glad I have. I mean, otherwise what's the point of living? That I think perhaps the main thing I've changed then, which is reflected in the drama I write, is that when I was young, I didn't really understand people who were not ambitious. I thought everyone had to want to get on, and they have to make their mark, and they have to do this and they have to do that. And I don't feel that now. I think that there are people who choose to live a more domestic life where their family is the center of their interests and the center of their ambitions and all the rest of it. And I see that now as a rewarding life. I think that's a good life. And if people choose it, they're lucky. And so in that, I think I've changed. And I think it's influenced the drama in that not every character I'm interested in is leading some sort of magic Gilded Age life with, everything made of gold. It's also the ordinary people who are just trying to get on with their lives as well as they can. I think that I'm kinder, really, than I used to be.
That's a very interesting point. I actually love that. Even if some of your characters are not so kind.
And for those of you who are watching and wondering, that was Sonia Warfield sitting next to Lord Julian Fellowes, who's a writer and executive producer. But this is my favourite character.
Of course, because I'm going to move on to Cynthia Nixon and Christine Baranski playing Aunt Ada and Aunt Agnes Van Ryan, respectively. This series, the power dynamics between the two characters have changed. Aunt Ada has come into money. Aunt Agnes almost lost her entire fortune.
She invested it badly, didn't she?
Well, it was her son. Her son Oscar invested it badly into a marriage that he hoped happened, and actually he was defrauded. So the power within the household has completely changed. And of course, Aunt Ada this time around has taken up a new political cause, the temperance cause, which is this kind of anti-alcohol cause. And Cynthia, I couldn't help but notice the parallels in real life, because of course Cynthia Nixon, she is very, whether you like her or not, we're talking about an artistic perspective here, but she is of course very politically outspoken. So kind of considering that point, I asked her if it was important for her personally, whether her character now has now found her voice and has a political stance of her own.
The way I think of it is when Ada looks at the world, she sees virtue and goodness. And I feel like when Agnes looks in the world, she sees power dynamics. And so Ada starts initially with a movement that she thinks is all about virtue. And I think Agnes is far more suspect, not only because she enjoys her wine, but also because, social movements that are really virtue-based, they don't do nearly as well as ones that recognize that the lingua franca of the world is really power.
For you, Christine, Aunt Agnes, I love how gloriously over the top she is, saying too much. Was there any a time where you thought you might want to rein her in, or did you just love to go full on Aunt Agnes, quick conclusions, over the top?
No, I had to be encouraged in the first season by the director to just trust that I could be that person, that I didn't have to act it, that I had perhaps Christine as I remember the director said, "We hired you because you're that person." And I thought, really? I'm that person? Yikes. But what he meant was I didn't have to act the role. I could just, people with real power and authority and a kind of natural sense of certitude and conviction, they don't move much. They don't even need to raise their voice. They just, when you say over the top, actually, I don't think I need to be over the top, because it's written in the character. Julian has written this character so well that they're simply declarative sentences said by someone who's absolutely certain that she's right. In fact, I have a wonderful line this season where my son says, don't you ever feel bad? Don't you ever apologize, Mama? And I say, no, because I'm never wrong. Well, that's a funny line, but all you have to do is say it. And it's, I always say she's a walking declarative sentence.
Christine is a very empathetic, warm person, but there is an Agnes down inside her.
Oh, it's my mother.
Right, but also there was a photo that went viral a couple of years ago of Christine at the Met Ball, looking at Elon Musk from a distance, with an enormous amount of disgust and disdain.
Such an Agnes glare.
So Agnes. So you see, it might be your mother, but given the right target, there's an Agnes inside.
Yeah, there is. It's frightening.
Love those women. Love them. And their characters if you've never seen it, you've got two series to watch. Right, we've got to very quickly get to the next clip.
Yes, so I spoke to Carrie Coon and Morgan Spector, who play Bertha and George Russell respectively. This is the new millionaire money couple that have risen to the very top echelons of society. But as we know, it's one thing to get to the top, it's another thing staying at the top. And actually what fans of the Gilded Age really love, they've really invested in George and Bertha's marriage, but it's really tested to the max this season, and the actors also are very, very close on screen and have also worked together on a variety of previous projects. So I wanted to know, how difficult was it for those moments of fracture? How difficult were they to film?
I remember feeling sad a lot. Like before we'd do, it's like, oh, we're fighting, you know? And it made me sad because I do love the moments where Bertha and George connect over their mutual ambition and their shared goals. And so we felt that fracture keenly as well, because we didn't get to have those moments of connection. We were always fighting for moments of connection, even in the middle of that. Right. So it was hard for us because we do like each other so much.
Yeah. No, and I really enjoy, I think, you know, I think there's a lot of complexity in playing a good marriage, playing a marriage that's working. And I think that's something that Julian has really found in the first two seasons, especially. So yeah, I did find myself through this season really longing for those moments. But we did try to sort of, you know, I think it's interesting to see people, even if, especially in a marriage, if they're not seeing eye to eye and they're struggling, that you see them working to still come back together.
And also, Carrie, I want to come back to you because I've loved your work in The Boston Strangler. And it's so funny because just yesterday, actually, I was watching The Post, and something that I've noticed about your acting and some of your roles, there is a certain boldness to your roles. And I was watching some of your previous interviews where you said that Bertha, she's both the protagonist and an antagonist. So when you kind of joined this project, did you feel like as an actress that you were finally able to be kind of let loose and play all these different characters, all these different kind of bold archetypes, but in kind of this one combined character, so to speak?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, thank you for that. I love her villainy. I haven't oft played the villain. I'm usually just sort of a, you know, broken, grieving woman who's got some intellectual capacity. So yes, what was thrilling for me was get to play in period and get to do that in such a heightened style, which of course I've done on stage. You know, I started off in summer stock. So I've been swanning around in upholstery fabrics for years, just nobody saw it. You know, if a tree falls in the woods. So it was glorious to get to do it on screen. And of course, in the sort of Julian Fellowes world, which is, he knows the world so well and he knows them so intimately. And I knew that he would take Bertha on a journey, that she wouldn't just be one thing. And so I knew what I was getting into. And yeah, it's absolutely thrilling. And I'm not afraid of people not liking me. It's much more fun.
I love these two as well. Yeah, they're very determined to get into society. Josh Rom, that was brilliant. Thank you. I love that.
Thank you, Petrie.
Josh Rom, entertainment journalist. Stay where you are. We're going to be talking to Anna Webb next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and just to let you know that Ed Wiseman will be in the studio at the top of the hour to go through the newspapers for Wednesday. I have a sneaking suspicion I know what's on the front pages already, but we will go through those with Ed at the top of the hour. Now though, we are going to have hot weather, and I know that as Brits we have no idea what to do with ourselves when it's hot, let alone what to do with our pets. So Anna Webb is joining me now, cat and dog behaviour expert and host of A Dog's Life podcast. Anna, it's lovely to see you, and I'm glad to see on my notes that Baggy is now feeling better.
Yes, thanks, Petrie. I'm really relieved. Baggy, I should explain, is my cat. And yes, he is just actually to my right, and I'm trying to coax him. So I've told him that his Auntie Petrie wants to meet him on screen.
Yeah, I want to say, I'll see him wandering about, no doubt. Now, listen, Anna, this is the thing, isn't it, with the hot weather? We always think, oh, it's a lovely day to go to the park. I'll take the dog with me. Cats, luckily, will find their own cool spot. Mine does. But dogs, we tend to take them out on a lead. They don't really know any better, but it can actually kill them if it's too hot. And we are looking at temperatures over 30 degrees. That is too hot.
It is far too hot. You've got to be very, very careful. The thing to remember is that dogs do overheat very, very quickly.
Well, they don't sweat, do they?
Well, they don't sweat. Their body temperature is 2 degrees higher than ours normally. So, you know, when we're feeling hot and we put on a pair of shorts and a T-shirt, dogs can't do that because they're wearing a fur coat. They can't perspire like us. They lose heat from their tongue and their paw pads. But of course, if the ground is hot, particularly pavements and the like, you know, walking them, it's like walking on hot stones, you know, for us in bare feet on the beach. So it's a terribly uncomfortable situation. And stress sets in very, very quickly. So, you know, within about 10 minutes of them, you know, really panting, being slow, not being able to move, you could be in a situation where they are heading towards death. I mean, that sounds very dramatic, but
heat stroke.
Yeah, it's heat stroke. Absolutely. You know, there's signs as well that when if you offer a dog something to drink and they refuse it, but you know that they are hot, that could also be a sign that heat stroke is kicking in, because it's their body, their natural instinct going, no, I mustn't consume liquid, because if I drink liquid, I'm going to, you know, pee, and that's going to take moisture away from my body. So that's a sign when a dog isn't drinking, that's a sign that they are already going into a heat stroke condition. So that's an interesting point. So
I was also watching something today where there was a vet talking and saying, look, when you get, if you do go out when it's hot, not as hot as it's going to be, don't take your dogs out in this heat, please. But if it is hot and they're panting a lot, not to immediately give them water, because then they can take on so much water and air that it can cause problems for them. It can cause bloating. So wait until that big pant has calmed down a bit and then give them water. Don't just rush to give them water, because they'll just drink, and that can be bad for them as well.
Yes, going into shock, you know, it's like, also don't just sort of pop them into a freezing cold paddling pool, take them indoors, you know, things like fans. What you really need to do is from the get-go, stop the heat coming into your home, close the blinds, close the curtains, get a fan on, keep your rooms cool. Don't take your dogs out in the midday sun. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. So it's about getting up early. We'll be up at 5 tomorrow morning to get that walk in whilst it is still cool. So you've done your good walk, then they should be able to relax happily in your cool environment, because you've, you know, closed the blinds, you've got circulating air. Then think of, you know, treats to give them in the day that are cooling. I'm a mad fan of bone broth, actually, because bone broth is full of electrolytes, and it's actually 4 times more hydrating at a cellular level than water alone. So I've got like loads of ice cube trays filled with bone broth at the moment, and I'll give my dogs a little bone broth paw-shaped ice cube, during the day. And then I know that's hydrating them really proactively inside, and it's tasty and it's nutritious. So that's the sort of thing to think about. Think of stocking up with chews so you can keep your dog sedentary but still enriched. And then think about maybe going out for a walk at about 8 p.m.
And also another general rule is to put your hand down on to a pavement that you're expecting a dog to walk on in its bare feet. And if it's too hot for you, it's too hot for their paws. They can burn them.
Absolutely, it can burn them. So, as I say, like when we go on a beach, and we've got bare feet and we walk on those stones, they can be awfully hot. So really, so you think about it, the dog's feet are getting hot, that's going into the body, they can't release the heat. The heat is a very dangerous situation. Dogs should not be going. And the one thing is, please don't leave your dog in a hot car.
I was just going to come to that. That is disgusting behaviour.
Yeah, it really is. You get the greenhouse effect, and I think it is about 6 minutes. That's all the time you've got, for the dog to collapse and basically suffocate. I mean, it's really quite a horrible thing. So, but people do it every year, and we know, do not leave dogs in hot cars, even in the shade.
And even with the window cracked open, it's still too hot in there.
Absolutely, because the car's stationary, so there's no circulating air really, particularly on a day. It's been so thick and humid of late, so absolutely not. Yes, another idea is what I do with my little dog, Mr. Binks, he has a little cotton T-shirt that's made for dogs with big cuts under the arms. It's not restricting him in any way. And I'll damp it under a cold tap, wring it out, pop it on him, and then through the natural process of evaporation, so the heat of the dog takes the moisture out of the T-shirt so the dog cools down very, very well, because it's like a 300-degree wrap, 360, I can't speak tonight, sorry Petrie, 360-degree wrap around the body, so the underbelly is cooling off.
And that's where it gets hot as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I was told not to do, because I've got a very young dog and a very old dog, so they're both at the extremes of not taking them out this weekend until it's much, much cooler, but is to not think that pouring water on the back of a dog when you're out in a park or whatever will help them, because actually that then warms up. The water itself on the back of the dog or on the head of the dog will warm up and cause more problems than you think you're solving.
Yes, no, really good point. And it will just roll off also. So hence this wrapping your dog in a T-shirt that's quite loose so that you get the air again circulating and the heat of the dog evaporates the water and then it cools the dog down. But, if you've got a garden, you can get a little special doggy paddling pool and then just play with your dog, splash around in the water, get the dog to lie down in the cool water, then bring him in, so that's a cooling effect. But just tipping water over sort of in a desperate panic, that won't help. No, I agree there, Petrie.
And cats, I mean, like I said, they're very much more sensible than dogs. They will usually find a cool place, whether it be outside or inside, and just stay there.
Yes, I mean, that is what you hope, but I mean, I have to say earlier today it was very hot and I brought my cat indoors because with the fan on, I thought, no, you're just going to lie there and fry. And I was going out, so I wouldn't be able to check on him. So I wanted to be, peace of mind whilst I wasn't here. At least he's indoors, not in the sun, sort of frying, because, of course, black dogs and cats will absorb the sun more efficiently than a paler coloured pet.
Yeah, I've got my cat is a black and white cat, and one dog is a black and white dog. So yeah. With cats though as well in this weather, presumably again the same rules apply, that you have to keep water next to them if they are shut in a room because you're going out or weather. Make sure they've got a water supply and things like that.
Absolutely. I'm a great fan of moist food for cats, moisture rich. So if you can, give your cat, moist food rather than perhaps, some ultra dry food during this hot weather, you're going to be moisturizing the cat from within. I'm adding extra water to his food as well, so that I'm sure that he is actually consuming enough fluid as well as offering water fresh, for him to drink from. Yeah. And there's like tasty, juicy treats treats you can give to your cat, like some nice moist chicken, because cats are designed to get their moisture from their food. So that's also a top tip. Bone broth, again, you know, my cat does love bone broth, so offer a little bit of bone broth. It's so effective, you know, because of the electrolyte content in bone broth. So same thing applies, really. And keep them cool. I mean, you know, I think outdoor cats in the midday sun, if you can, bring them indoors just to save any risk. You know, it's better to be safe than sorry.
And if you think your dog or cat has had heat stroke, then you've just got to take them to the vet, because there's nothing else that you can do for them. You have to do that. You have to take them to the vet. Anna, wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much. Anna Webb there, cat and dog behaviour expert and host of a Dog's Life podcast. Back in a sec with the papers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it's good to have your company. I've just got some news for you on the situation in, particularly in Iran, especially with regards to Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. You seriously couldn't make this stuff up. We've now heard from Russia. Vladimir Putin has said that all sides should look for ways to end the fighting between Israel and Iran. If only he would take his own advice, that would be extraordinary, wouldn't it? Putin said that Moscow had conveyed its ideas on how to achieve peace to the parties involved and was in contact with Donald Trump and Israel on the conflict. He also said that Russia planning to attack a NATO country is nonsense designed to fool Western taxpayers. Yeah, we believe you, Vladdy. The only thing with this is to bear in mind in terms of the Iranian situation is that Vladimir Putin does not want a regime change. He does not want the Ayatollah to be overthrown by the people of Iran, which is a potential. It is a possibility, and it's certainly one that a lot of Western countries are hoping for. Vladimir Putin wants the status quo because he gets a lot of weapons from Iran. That's one of his axes of evil, if you like. He doesn't want the Ayatollah to be deposed. So that's why. That's the only reason. Vladimir Putin wants peace in the area. The Ayatollah, though, has said that he is not going to surrender. Iran will not surrender. And Trump wants not just surrender, but he then wants America to go into Iran to destroy all of the nuclear facilities, and that is not something that I believe the Ayatollah will ever agree to, or that Iran would agree to under its current regime. So that is the latest. We'll be talking about that more a little bit later on. President Trump has told senior aides that he has approved of attack plans for America, but was holding off on giving the final order to see if Tehran would abandon its nuclear program. Since his private instructions at the White House Situation Room to the military, Trump has disclosed publicly that an attack was an option. I have ideas on what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due, which isn't terrifying at all, she said sarcastically. I think you need more than 1 second to think about bombing another country. But there you go. That's currently America for you. So, with me in the studio, sorry to keep you waiting.
Here I am.
Is the wise man himself, Ed, who is here with us. It's an incredibly tense situation, and you were just telling me you've got an app that you can see where planes are moving around the Middle East at the moment.
It's been quite entertaining watching all the tankers make their way over from the States and other aircraft make their way over from the UK, stopping at their usual places on the way down.
Because we've sent a couple of extra typhoons over to Cyprus, where there are already 12, I think, so we sent another couple. But I mean, how bonkers is that?
It adds certainly an extra dynamic that everybody is watching this unfold in very much real time. When you see tankers take off from the US and make a little convoy across the Atlantic.
Yeah, these are the refuelling tankers you're talking about rather than ocean-going.
No, exactly, yes. They're refuelling it. They're airborne tankers, so fighter jets are able to stay in the air for much longer, or other aircraft are able to stay in the air for much longer, which is one easy way to help an ally out, is to cruise around with a jerry can in the sky and then top
refuel
up every now and again, which means that your ally doesn't need to go back to its base to keep refueling.
And we've seen B-52s arriving in Diego Garcia as well. It's a British base there.
A nice retro aircraft. They've been buzzing around for a long time,
Very
the B-52s.
long time. Yeah, I mean, look, we haven't heard from our Prime Minister yet as to what the Cobra meeting decided, which is a little bit worrying to me, because we have the right to know how much we are going to be involved in this. Donald Trump wants us involved in a major support capacity, if not more, because we do have RAF in the region, we have ships, and we have a major naval base in Bahrain. We have soldiers, but not that many, but about 3,000, I think, in that region on different operations around the area, and some exercises that they're doing as well. So, but how much are we going to agree to get involved? That's what Starmer needs to tell us.
I don't think he knows. I think he's waiting to see what pans out, as is the rest of the world. I don't think he has a plan.
But don't you think it's really worrying that these world leaders don't know what they're going to do next?
No, precisely.
Trump going, well, I'll make a decision 1 second before. That is horrifying to me.
Well, we all do it with choosing a restaurant, I suppose. You just think, let's go with what follow your heart. But you're right. I think it is slightly peculiar that nothing has been communicated. Yes, it is a fast-moving story. But it would have been helpful if at any point we had heard, yes, we will absolutely commit to our transatlantic ally, or yikes, we're staying out of this one because it sounds like it's going to be a disaster from start to finish. Either would have been good in different ways, but we haven't really heard either. I also feel sorry for the squaddies out in Cyprus, because that must be a real dot of a tour until something happens. That must be
I used to go to Cyprus a lot with the military. I used to volunteer to go and do stories from there, because actually it is the launching for the British military. It is the launch pad for the Middle East. So I would go there and get into helicopters and fly over countries that perhaps shouldn't have been flying over, and filming and doing all of that. And when there were missions where they were dropping things off, so I used to fly all over that region from Cyprus, and we've got a lot of big planes there, but it is an amazing place, and we've reduced the troops there as well. There used to be an awful lot more than there are now, but yeah, that would have been a real. It was a bit of a DOS, and it was lovely being there.
Until this happened.
Until this happened. Well, they've now been put on alert. Because as I keep saying, if you look at the map, Cyprus is really close to Israel. So if Iran is still able to bomb Israel, then without any problem at all, it could bomb Cyprus. And if they think that there are going to be bombers leaving from Cyprus in terms of war, that's what I would do. To prevent those planes from taking off. That, just militarily speaking.
It's quite frightening times in that regard.
Yeah, because there's so much. This is the problem with war. People tend to think of war as being clean, good guys on one side, bad guys on the other. But there are so many missteps that happen. There are so many mistakes that happen. There are so many things that can do and will go wrong. And these men, I have to say, just appear to be playing a game of risk at the moment. And the risk isn't theirs, it's ours.
Well, none of them are heavyweights, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's very true.
And maybe I'm romanticising the past, but none of them have that much gravitas as statesmen.
No.
I'm not entirely convinced that any of them really have a real feel for what it should mean. To engage in this kind of stuff.
It's huge. I mean, it's just huge. That whole region is a tinderbox.
Domestic policy seems to be absolutely at the forefront of everybody's, we're constantly hearing about the UK's domestic policy, and obviously the States as well. There's so little talk from meaningful European leaders about what could happen or what should happen.
Well, they can largely keep out of this. The only country I think that might also be dragged into this, if America decides that it is going to go ahead and use its bunker buster bomb, well, that's not easy to say, is Germany. Because there's a Ramstein base in Germany. Now they've got a lot of the bigger planes, supply planes as well. So they would be involved in troop movement more, I think. And
refuelling. A lot of them have stopped on the way down there because they kind of.
So Ramstein, Germany may be dragged along with it, but I don't know whether there's the appetite at the moment to support Donald Trump in the way that Donald Trump thinks he should be supported. This won't be a NATO issue, this will be a UN issue, and in which regard we don't have to get involved. We don't have to. We don't have to with NATO either, by the way.
Doesn't really mean, I don't know. I mean,
doesn't mean we won't.
And especially with the UK's position, who is our main ally at the moment? Are we closer to France, or are we closer to the US? Or are we closer to Europe, or are we closer to...
And how much are we going to suck up to Trump?
Precisely.
For tariffs?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I mean, now that we are...
And that to me is just sick. It's absolutely sick that if that is even being contemplated, if our Prime Minister is saying, well, we've got to support America because otherwise he'll stick 25% tariffs back on our steel.
Yes.
So that would be disgusting to me.
Take kerosene to Tehran. Yeah, the whole thing is quite grotesque. And like you say, there are no goodies and baddies. No. Nobody comes out of this conflict looking good, apart from perhaps the non-participants. But every single player so far has been, to some extent, disgraceful, I think. There's nobody who's like very clearly going to come out of this smelling of roses.
No. And the other thing that people are not remembering, that none of this would be happening if Donald Trump in 2018 hadn't ripped up Obama's agreement with Iran.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't perfect, but it was good. It was something that the Iranians trusted. It was bipartisan, so there were lots of people who were signed up.
I thought it was older than that even. I thought it was even...
No, it was 2018, he destroyed it. Obama...
It was 2015 he agreed it, wasn't it?
And Trump just did that to rip up something that Obama did. There was no reason, because actually what he's been trying to agree with Iran is the same blooming deal that they had already. But the trust has been broken. And the Ayatollah, I've got no stock with him or that regime. And, the Iranian people, completely different situation. But why would they trust a man who ripped up an agreement that was working and was holding, and then try to have the same agreement signed? How do you know he's not going to rip it up on the car journey home?
I think that's kind of an extension of the lack of statesmen. Everybody is just, I say everybody, so many of the big players are not really behaving as one might when one took the situation seriously. It's all petty point scoring. It feels very puerile. It feels quite sort of schoolyard. Yeah. There's so much of it that it's just very difficult to respect. And if we're sitting there having that conversation, presumably they're out there thinking, well, what's the point in this guy?
What is the point?
It's a bit of a joke.
I've got a question that's come in here from Sam, and a lot of people perhaps don't understand this. This evening, Petrie, can I ask why Iran got involved when it was Israel and Gaza? Because Iran has made it it's declared that it wants to destroy Iran and all the Jewish people, all the Zionists there. They don't ever refer to the Israelis as even people. They hate them. Their sole aim of Iran is to destroy Israel. And so what they've been doing, Sam, is they've been using proxies, Hamas, which is what Israel is saying that they're trying to get rid of in Gaza. The Houthis, oh God, there's another one as well, I've forgotten. Hamas, Houthi, Hezbollah.
The three
from Lebanon. So Iran has been funding these groups, Hezbollah, Houthis and Hamas, in the region to attack Israel. So Iran is involved. It's always been involved, but by proxy. So in Yemen, proxy. It's all been in Lebanon, proxy. In Palestine, proxy fighters on behalf of Iran to destroy Israel. So that's why Israel has not just now, but in the past, attacked Iran to stop them from funding their proxies. So I hope that makes sense. Let's have a look at the Washington Post. Much of it is to do with what's going on with Iran. Trump weighs joining assault on Iran, pivotal moment for his presidency, tough language for a deeply weakened Tehran. Images there of Israel, a funeral, Iranian missiles hit. Israelis say they're losing long-held sense of security. Because it doesn't, this Iron Dome, it doesn't really, if you send enough missiles over there, it can only stop a certain amount. Yeah. It's not a dome. People think of it as an actual physical, it isn't. It's not a physical, it's not a physical dome. It's weapon systems, both ground and air.
Hideously expensive to run as well.
Hideously expensive.
Each pop is very, very expensive, tens of thousands of dollars, and they've obviously been using it a lot. And I believe they are, both sides, currently running out of ammo. They have finite quantities, finite stats.
Which is why there's a suspicion about what those Chinese planes were doing landing in Iran, because actually their flight plan was to Luxembourg.
Sure, and nobody goes to Luxembourg.
And nobody goes to Luxembourg, and these planes didn't go to Luxembourg. They went off the radar. Yeah. They literally went off radar over Iran. So these are three Chinese supply planes. What they're supplying, we don't know. I mean... Yeah. But then, as I said earlier, the first casualty of war is the truth, isn't it? We never get to know what exactly.
It's very interesting, the alliances, who's saying what to whom, who stays quiet, who's piped up, and yes, who has sent fleets of aircraft.
And Putin having the brass neck to say that they should stop fighting each other.
Yes, I mean, why not? You might as well say something, I suppose.
It just beggars belief. You just want to go, have you heard yourself?
But meanwhile, all of these other conflicts are going on. Gaza is still being obliterated. Ukraine is still being obliterated.
And Russia will be taking advantage of us looking the other way right now to attack Ukraine further.
A big drone attack on Kiev, I think, today or late last night.
Yeah,
There's been a lot.
It's awful. Absolutely
lots of barrages.
Awful.
It feels like the newspapers are filling up with the same photographs of wrecked residential buildings.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's been a while since that's been the case.
It's just what a mess. What an absolute mess the world is. The other story on the Washington Post before we go for a break is that many wanted immigration enforcement, but not this. In a closely divided area of North LA, voters draw a line at some of the tactics in Trump's crackdown. I mean, it has been hideous. Masked people that they don't even know if they're ICE or not. No, not declaring who they are. I mean, it looks like kidnap.
Yes, and I think there's probably a lot of very bad actors making use of that.
Who will be kidnapping
precisely. That's the thing. It never goes well. If you've got masked people bundling people into vans, then surely that's just an invitation for sort of scores to be settled and criminals to take over. It does feel like that is. But then, they voted for it, and all of this is because they voted for it. That's kind of the thing.
That's what they keep saying. Well, you voted for it. And you go, well, we didn't vote. We didn't think we were voting for this.
Didn't vote for a massively destabilised Middle East and people being disappeared in the US.
Just off the street.
It is kind of what people say would happen.
And a democratic statesman being arrested.
Yes, he was nabbed at a court. Yes, exactly.
He was just accompanying somebody to go to their legal battle for, I don't know.
Well, I hope everybody around the world is watching and thinking, yikes, maybe if we do elect the completely incompetent populist right-wing leader, then we are going to end up with the same.
I hope so.
Maybe there is some advantage in having the rule of law and lots of very boring sounding things that sound like they're difficult to comprehend, but actually they do prevent this kind of stuff from happening.
Boring things like due process.
Boring things like due process. Occasionally due process goes wrong, but 99.9% of the time it's what
we all should have. Right, let's take a break, and Ed Wiseman and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me is Ed Wiseman. And if you're watching on the television, we phoned each other up earlier and said, "Are you going to wear your stripy blouse?" Yeah,
and
we did.
We need to coordinate. We need to coordinate more, I think, if anything.
I didn't coordinate with the moustache.
No, not yet.
Not yet, but I'm working on it.
Next time.
I'm working
we
on
will
it.
just become assimilated, visually
we will
distinct,
be,
but
exactly.
only
I've got to
just.
change my glasses as well. But we will get there. Let's have a look at the Independent. This was the most extraordinary thing. The headline is, "I may do it, I may not. Nobody knows what I'm going to do." I don't think he knows what he's going to do. But actually, this was him standing outside the White House, unmasking two flagpoles that he was having erected outside. So the men behind him in that image there are the flagpole erectors. I don't know if that's a job, but that's.
They look like three flagpole erectors.
Yeah, they do.
But they're all looking at him with a mixture of perplexion and disgust.
Can't believe what he's saying.
Yeah.
He was talking about these flagpoles, and he was going, "Great flagpoles. I'm very excited about these the best flagpoles in America, in the world." the best flagpole. They got great top, and we're going to hang flags on them. It was like, I was, what are you doing talking about flagpoles when you're, what? It's not business as usual, mate.
No.
You don't. It was extraordinary and bonkers and ridiculous.
It's also quite baffling as just a sort of topic of conversation. Anyway. Sort of, these are nice flagpoles. Let's move on. You know, just a conversation.
Why does the president have to be? I mean,
or unity. I don't know. You could riff on something else.
I mean,
but he
seriously, a flagpole.
Yeah.
Who cares? Best flagpoles in the world.
He is just a puppet, isn't he? Fundamentally, it's not
Steve Miller's puppet.
It's not him.
It's becoming evident who's running the country.
Exactly, Steve Miller and indirectly Putin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't. He's just.
I used to think it was Vance, but he's too dumb. He's not bright enough. Yeah. It's Steve Miller.
But then he's Vance's second in command. You know, he's.
Yeah, but he was placed there by the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, because I mean that whole thing.
That whole thing was because Trump didn't want him originally. Do you remember?
Yes,
he was ordered. He was ordered to take him.
I think that was it because they had sort of kind of beef.
Plans.
But also
well, they need another puppet in case this puppet strings are cut.
Yeah.
So they need another puppet, and Vance is it. Vance is not bright. He's not the smartest talker.
No,
whereas Stephen Miller is just evil.
Yes.
And he's got the. He's smart.
Vance,
not in a good way. But.
Vance, there's something a bit. I can't quite put my finger on it, but you do feel a bit sorry for him in some way. Something's happened.
Well, yeah. I mean, he went to a conversion camp.
Maybe that's it. Just
I think that the person I had hopes for originally was Marco Rubio. I thought that he. And to begin with, he did seem to be a bit, oh, God, what have I got myself involved with? Because he had originally slagged Trump off, as Vance has done.
Yeah.
But now he just looks like he's drunk the Kool-Aid. That he's part of it now. But at the beginning, he seemed he seemed a bit embarrassed.
I think that, I mean, maybe that's the thing. Maybe you just do it for a while and then you either bail and become a pundit, or you just have to think, you know what, I'm getting paid too much.
I'm getting loads of money out of this.
Exactly. Over some insider trading and all sorts of.
I think that's possibly it. Well, anyway, the front page here says President scoffs at the Ayatollah's threat of irreparable harm if US joins Israeli attacks on nuclear targets and claims the next week is going to be very big. As Iran derides US call for unconditional surrender. And the Ayatollah as well has said it's a lie. It's a lie. We haven't begged America to go over there and talk to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
That's not the first time he's lied,
No, of course not. It's probably not the first time he's lied in the past 10 minutes, but it also indicates what he kind of fantasises is taking place, as if he's this great broker of deals and peace. But
I question every day now whether Donald Trump is losing his mind or the people around him are lying to him.
I think probably both.
So if the people around him are going, oh yeah, we've had the Ayatollah's on the phone.
Yeah.
No, I'll speak to him. I'll speak to him. He says he wants to come over and bend over to you and wants a peace deal. And so then Trump regurgitates that.
Precisely.
Or is he just lying?
I think he's
I just don't know.
He's obviously not compos mentis. He's obviously been
He's not well.
He's not very well, and he is slightly rambling. He's a bit of a fool. But I mean, if you were having to deal with this kind of person in the workplace, you would also probably start telling white lies. And if he said, "Has the Ayatollah phoned grovelling yet?" after the third or fourth time of that being shouted at you from a passing golf buggy, you'd say, "Yes, mate."
Yeah.
He's on it the whole time. He's constantly phoning up saying, "Please, can I come over?" And I don't know. I don't know how much of it is sort of deliberate appeasement and how much of it is just
that's what I'm trying to figure out, because he was again today boasting that his poll numbers are the highest ever, and actually every single poll shows him underwater considerably, the lowest in American history at this point of a president's term. So is he lying, or has he been lied to?
Well, he watches
and
a lot
then
of
just
Fox News,
regurgitates it.
and that's kind of the other thing. Fox News is probably calling the shots here. Fox News wants another war.
Yeah,
so
and they also edited that parade thing to make it look like
the parade was a disaster. Did you talk about that the other day?
Oh my God. Well, a lot of people think that this Tough Man Act is in response to his ego being so badly bruised by the awful parade that took place.
It's possible, but I mean, that's probably giving him too much credit psychologically. I think he's running on fumes intellectually, and that he's just surrounded by people who are also maybe not that great.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a conspiracy.
Well, they're all idiots, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, they're only
None of them are there on merit.
No. Is there anybody who's still? They've purged most of the people who are good.
Out of the military as well.
Yeah.
Out of the Pentagon.
I think there are a few relatively experienced people somewhere in the Pentagon and sort of somewhere in the White House, but like very few and far between.
But dare they speak up?
Yeah, precisely.
I mean, you've literally got a couple of Fox News hosts.
Yeah.
It's like me being given defence job. Head of defence.
I've seen your map. I've seen your highlighted map over there. I think you'd be pretty good.
At least I know where Iran is.
At least you'd be able to point to it, on the globe. Which actually,
At least I know how many people, how big Iran is, 92 million people.
Yeah.
Which of course Ted Cruz earlier on didn't even know how many people were in Iran in an interview with Tucker Carlson. And I hate Tucker Carlson, by the way.
He's also none of it is good.
None of it is good, but that was a good interview. I have to, even though I don't like Tucker Carlson, that was actually a good interview when he had Cruz on the ropes saying, well, you're going to bomb this place and you know nothing about it.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
But you feel as though you would have had a briefing or something.
Oh, God.
Just like 10 minutes on Wikipedia.
How big a population is the country that you're going to bomb?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
What? It's embarrassing.
It's a lack of rigour. It's really peculiar. And it's one that I don't recognise in almost any of the places that I've worked.
No, I agree.
Most of the places I've worked, there have been people who are quite
who will
honest.
question you.
Yeah,
so
question.
What do you mean?
Exactly.
What?
And sort of people who think, no, the right thing to do is this, I'll go away and work it out, not this sort of gung-ho, shoot from the hip.
But I suppose he might have thought that he was at a safe interview. And so they get a bit cosy, don't they, with Fox and...
friendly media.
Oh, there shouldn't be any such thing.
Yeah,
That's not the job of the media. Mind you, Fox News, not a news channel. It's an entertainment channel, and there are no journalists there.
They argued that, didn't they, in court? Did they?
Yeah, they argued that. But they're all entertainers.
Yeah.
They're not even journalists.
Yeah,
the presenters there.
They've all got a very funny look.
They've all got the same.
Their weird...
Well, it's because they're cosplaying journalists.
Yeah,
and that's what they think journalists and presenters look like.
It's very strange.
It's very odd.
It is uncanny.
But because they call themselves news, people think it is the news.
Precisely, as Donald Trump does as well. And he's fed this constant diet of Fox News. That's where he presumably gets a lot of intel, if you could call it that. Instead of actually attending briefings, he sits.
Yes, he doesn't attend those briefings.
He just watches Fox News and then sort of waddles out and kind of says and does what they've told him to.
And even when his head of security, what's her name, Pam Bondi, told him that by the assessment of the intelligence services that Iran wasn't close to a nuclear weapon, he said, well, I don't care what she says.
Yeah. It's like, well,
I think they are.
Yeah, because Netanyahu has said that they are.
Exactly, but he's been saying that for 10 years.
He's been saying that for 15. He's been saying that for a long time.
Years,
really, like ages.
Well, it's 2 weeks away.
They're 2 weeks away. Yeah, precisely.
It smacks of the WMD concept, the weapons of mass destruction.
I was just thinking that. It's a really, I mean, it's
the oldest playbook.
Tale of the oldest time. They're about to bomb us, so we bomb them.
Yeah.
But yes, these sort of mythical WMD.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked for.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked for W, so it'll work for Netanyahu.
Yeah, and Trump.
But then Trump, obviously, I mean, maybe he just believes it.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
And anything, I mean, literally, he probably does. But for him to take a briefing from his intelligence services and then go, nah, that's not what I think. What?
That's not the most recent thing I heard from another source.
Exactly.
It is very interesting. I suppose, in a sense, it is an abstract look into like a very warped psychology. But it's kind of a shame that we're looking at it sort of edging closer to a
very, very significant and dangerous situation.
Yeah.
The Sun newspaper, again, Middle East on brink. Donald Trump last night warned Iran it has got a lot. It's got a lot of trouble as his war of words ramped up. He declared next week is going to be very big.
He's not a natural wordsmith, is he?
No. He was asked whether the US will join Israel's devastating military action, adding, I may do it, I may not do it. But the Ayatollah has vowed to show no mercy to its enemies. So there you go. Let's take a break. Ed Wiseman and I will be back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it's Petrie here, and with me is Ed Wiseman. We're going through Thursday's front pages, and really no surprise as to pretty much every single one of them what's on the front page here. The Metro, Middle East on the brink. Iran's leader threatens irreparable harm to US if its warplanes strike. Just a point on that. America always has this sense of safety because it's so far away from everywhere else. It's so far away from the Middle East, hence why it needs to use bases that it has and we have in order to operate in that region. So it's nowhere near where the action is taking place. So they have this sense of bravado with it and bravery. But what they've got to remember is that when Iran says there will be irreparable harm on the US, it's not talking about sending missiles to America. It's talking about Iranian people that they will have had embedded in America for a very, very long time. And I would not be surprised if there was some kind of attack on American soil in response to this. Well, but it won't come from the country of Iran. It will be internal in America.
My interpretation as well of those words, I feel as though the last thing that Trump needs, at the other end of the scale, no human tragedy really, is an increase in oil prices at this point. He is aware that domestically he is not doing very well, I'm sure on some level, despite what he said, and that if there is a significant hike in the cost of living for the average American, that is going to massively erode his support after he has very much said that he's going to bring peace to the Middle East, he's going to bring an end to the war in Ukraine, etc., etc., and none of those things have happened. And if there is a massive spike in oil price, that is going to completely destroy the livelihoods of his entire voter base. Surely he's weighing that up.
Well, you say that, but he did also say publicly, if you vote for me, you'll never have to vote again.
Yeah, true.
And if there is an attack on American soil, it's the perfect excuse for martial law and the suspension of the Constitution. And some people are suggesting that that is actually why he's rattling Iran's cage at the moment, because he wants, this is not me saying it, but this is being suggested that he wants an attack on American soil so he can invoke martial law.
And then he won't have to have another election.
And then he won't have to have it, and none of that matters anymore.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't think he's the strategist behind that.
No, it's Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation and Stephen Miller.
We're using Trump as the sort of catch-all term for the whole, the entity that is Trump,
for that regime,
that is spearheaded by this.
Also, it says bunker busters are in place as Trump claims Iranians asked for peace talks in the White House, which they deny. And the president warns next week is going to be very big. Maybe less than a week. He's just riffing, isn't he? He's just making it up. Maybe sooner than that. I don't know. When's it going to happen? I don't know. Well, if you don't know.
Could he point to Iran on a map?
No.
Actually, probably now he could. He's probably seen it on TV
I bet you couldn't. BFT, again, the bunker buster.
There it is.
There it is. It's £30,000.
Yeah.
Did you know that? 30,000, and it digs. I was reading about it earlier. Something like 60 feet. When they drop it, because they have to get right above and drop it. It's a dead weight. Sorry, that was my watch hitting the table. So it's not one that which is why you need an aircraft, so it can fly in and drop the bomb, as opposed to it flying in and at an angle or whatever. And then it just buries, because it's so heavy, deep enough and then it will explode. Which will then knock out the bunkers, and they're saying that the bunkers are as deep as the Channel Tunnel. So that's
I thought they were half a mile.
No, well, I suppose it would then start
half
to
a mile,
collapse.
including the sea. Oh, I see.
And they need 2 of these bombs.
Sure.
As well, and I think the B-52 can carry 2. I don't know about the BS. I don't know if that.
There is just something quite.
BS2.
I mean, that would be quite a big, bold move if they did fly B-52s over. I can't remember the name of the nuclear installation. Is that it?
Fordo. I know it doesn't sound Iranian, right? No, but it's Fordo.
Fordo. It sounds like it's in Norfolk.
Yeah. This is a nuclear site at Fordo, inside a mountain.
Yeah.
The International Atomic
Well, it's possible. It's possible. Maybe that's what will happen tomorrow. Maybe right now there's
they are saying that the sensitive facilities may be half a mile underground.
And I don't know. But
they will be multi-layered, won't they?
They will be multi-layered, and also just it feels like, what if it does? You know, how would you know?
Well, Iran, of course, said it's just for civilians. It's just civilian, but they would say that.
They would say that. Everyone's saying stuff.
Everybody's lying.
Everybody's fibbing.
Right, the Telegraph. Let's have a look at this. War on Iran may be illegal. I don't think anybody at this point really cares. It's happening.
Well, I suppose it's interesting from our perspective. If Sir Keir is a lawyer by trade, whether he is maybe trying to do something that is vaguely in line with international law, but on the other hand, protecting allies, could we refuel allies? You know, how much involvement is involvement?
Yeah, exactly that question. The controversial Attorney General warns the PM that Britain must limit its role to protecting allies because it would be illegal for us to get involved.
And we've been assisting Israel in the bombardment of Gaza for a long time. But certainly within this conflict.
And we assisted America when they bombed with that whole thing of the signal chat.
Exactly. We're always there.
Yemen. Rochdale grooming gang cannot be deported. I mean, this will anger people. Pakistan is refusing to take back the ringleaders of the Rochdale grooming scandal after they renounced their citizenship, and we can't deport them because it makes them stateless.
Well, you can't blame Pakistan for not wanting them back.
No.
But how do you navigate that?
What do you do then? I don't know.
Yeah. They lost their appeals against deportation in 2018, but remain in Britain. Yeah. Okay. So where do you deport them to if they are effectively stateless? Do you send them to the?
But you can't, can you?
No.
It's against international law, or you just drop them off in Pakistan anyway and go, sorry,
with like a $5 for a taxi fare and then delete your number.
Yeah.
I think maybe the Rwanda thing. I bet Labour goes back to a third country option.
It will have to.
At some point.
It's got no choice. There is only that choice.
Yeah.
Or you have third country applications. That's the only other choice as well.
Yes.
So people can apply outside of the UK.
Yeah, in Calais.
Benefit claimants to rise by 750,000. That's 750,000. The number of people claiming disability benefits in Britain will increase by 750,000 over the next 5 years, despite Sir Keir Starmer's attempt to reduce the welfare bill.
Do we think that is... I mean, there are so many problems inherent in this, I think. And the main one is that the state is bailing out companies' low wages.
Yeah,
that's the elephant in the room here.
Yeah.
Is that actually having to subsidise people's terrible salaries.
Yeah.
People's terrible...
The taxpayers having so that they can make their profits.
So that they can make their profit and then not pay tax on it. The whole thing, it needs fixing on. You can't just keep putting these plasters on it. You can't just keep making cuts to things and hoping it will go away and then pretending it's surprising that X thousand people are claiming money. It does feel as though there's probably something more intrinsic going on.
Systemic has got to be fixed. But also, a lot of people topping up their benefits by applying for disability benefits as well.
And it's never the people who need it as well.
No. The cost of the two disability benefits would increase by, not two, by £8 billion by 2030 as the number of claimants continues to rise. Extraordinary.
Yeah. Which is about the cost of the tunnel that they're thinking about building, isn't it?
Oh,
there's a new tunnel that costs about the same.
Yeah. Listen, it's just this is all money going out, isn't it? There's none coming in until we get taxed again. Mother dies of rabies after a scratch by a puppy.
That was sad.
That's really sad. Being scratched by a puppy whilst on holiday in Morocco. Yvonne Ford was scratched very slightly by the puppy in February, but only started displaying symptoms this month.
Yeah.
So apparently it's an awful way to die.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be pretty miserable. And I mean, it's all one of the things that you can't take for granted in this country. It is obviously going to the dogs in some respect, but we have largely eradicated some of the...
Absolutely, well, we have eradicated
we've
rabies,
eradicated so many other diseases that, you know, there are lots of bad things happening, and yes, we are spending an awful lot of money on pointless infrastructure projects, but at least we are top of the food chain. And over the course of hundreds of years of industrialisation, we have made some real inroads in not having to be terrified of
I mean, that's vaccines for you. They're just the most brilliant invention.
Yeah, vaccines and also just
and people
the
are turning their backs on it
Yeah,
now.
I know.
I just, you couldn't make this up. Yeah, I remember when I was working in Somalia, I was reporting out there, and the RAF medics were really like, you keep away from monkeys, you keep away from dogs. If you get even so much, even if they sniff you, you tell us and we'll vaccinate you straight away.
Yeah.
Because it's only when you've got symptoms is the horrible vaccine, which is straight into your stomach.
Sure.
But you know, and they were saying, look, if even if a monkey, you know, we don't care, just a tiny little nick, you come to us straight away. And because the monkeys have got rabies and all of the animals, so they were really on it.
Yeah,
and even if you've got a bite, they said mosquito bite or something like that, they would have a look at it and go, okay, well, they were really hot on it. It was a big issue. Big problem.
Because it does have an almost 100% death rate. It's almost always
it's
pretty much always fatal.
Really, it's a horrific disease. We've got to take another break.
We're rattling through these papers.
Rattling through. Ed and I'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me is Ed Wiseman, and we are going, transport and travel journalist, I probably should give you a full title. We're going through the papers for Thursday. The Daily Express gone with a completely different front page. Assisted dying law would be a wonderful present for mum. I have massive doubts that the MPs are brave enough, and I think it's shameful.
They did do abortion.
They did.
Just now.
They did. They did.
Which maybe was a surprise. I didn't.
But I don't think it's that controversial. There's a lot of people, you know, saying, "Oh, it should be." Well, how can you abort a baby up until birth? We're not talking, and people are getting so confused by this. This is not to allow women at 8 months You can't abort. I mean, I was saying in the newsroom, and forgive this language, but you can't abort a living baby at 8 months. You'd have to club it to death like a baby seal. It doesn't. That's not abortion. What they're talking about is if the mother's life is at risk, if the baby's life is, some fetuses have got no brain and they're going to be born and suffocate and die within a minute. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about. I saw these messages going, well, I've got my children were born at 25 weeks, and the thought of murdering them. That is not what has been decriminalised. What has been decriminalised is women who have late miscarriages, who are being arrested under suspicion of having an abortion. That's what we're talking about here.
It's a very small number of people.
It's a tiny number, but they're all getting knickers in a twist.
And a lot of it is kind of just formalising what we've already thought. A lot of people thought it was just legal in this country anyway. They didn't realise that actually abortion takes place through almost loopholes in this country.
I mean, it would be. I mean, there's only legal abortions because they are available. They are legal, so nobody's going to. You're not going to be able to waddle in there at 7 months pregnant and go, I have to change my mind. Yeah. People don't do that. They don't do that. Yeah. Because if you were going to have an abortion, you'd have it earlier.
Yeah, an elective abortion.
Yeah. Yeah,
most of the people having later abortions are not having a very nice time.
It's not elective.
It's not a very happy moment for anybody.
It's not their choice. It is not this whole freedom of choice thing. It is not a choice at that stage in pregnancy. This is a disaster for everybody involved. Horrible, and you would still need to go to a doctor. So the idea that people are, honestly, the stupidity really defeats me.
Well, partly stupidity, but also partly a concerned campaign by people to miseducate as well.
That is true.
I think there's...
And also people putting things like, freedom of choice. Is that when it's not that. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not women choosing at 7 months, I've changed my mind, I don't want to have this baby anymore.
It does spread quite quickly, a lot
Very
of it.
quickly.
So I do understand why well-meaning people might pick up on the wrong things that aren't quite true.
Yeah,
in addition
because they want to.
Yeah, or because it sort of sounds quite frightening.
Yeah, I suppose, but it annoys me nonetheless. The Daily Mail benefits bill is on course to rocket by, this says 18 billion.
Oh, it's gone up in the past 15 minutes.
I did say 8, so it wasn't that I read it wrong.
That's benefits bill...
No, it says 8 billion here. Second paragraph on the Telegraph.
The second paragraph on the Telegraph, was that just disability benefits?
Rise of disability, the 2 disability benefits would rise by 8 billion. And this is spending on... No, this is sickness benefits.
It's all just sickness benefits.
So it's both of them, 18 billion.
Well, someone's
got to sort it out.
Someone's made a typo on the front page.
Yeah, don't know who, don't know which one.
To be fair, there's been a lot of news. They're typing very fast.
They're just busy. Yeah. Kate pulls out of Ascot.
At the last minute.
At the last minute. She's probably knackered.
Yeah, that's a real key change from all of the other newspapers, I think. Really interesting. There is no mention of Iran or Israel.
No.
Or Donald Trump. No. Or really geopolitics in general.
In any way.
We've got a domestic story. Can you tell how much we drink?
Isn't it? That's
the Mail.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I suppose so.
It is. Benefits, immigrants.
There's not even sort of a splash somewhere. There's not even anything saying sort of...
No, not even a little flag anywhere.
Yeah.
The Daily Star, not entirely surprising, doesn't cover the war either. The Tory statue fury. Frankie is in the Binners enclosure. Race fans blasted Ascot bosses after bins were dumped near a statue of the world-famous jockey Frankie Dettori. Were they?
Yeah, I mean...
Were they really?
I can't think of a less important...
Were they furious?
...thing to have happened today.
No. Do you think people are going, oh, I'm so angry about this?
I don't know.
No, I doubt it.
Maybe the Tories might have had...
life-size statue.
Yeah. That's very good.
Thank you. They are.
I've never been to Ascot.
I've never been to the Ascot races.
I've been to Ascot. I've driven through Ascot town.
I wouldn't go. I don't like people. The Guardian, I may do, I may not. Trump keeps world waiting on US joining war, the big tough man there. Universities are barred from a blanket ban on protest. Blooming right.
Yeah. Academics should not be pressured to support particular views.
Quite right too.
Protests should not be restricted for supporting legal viewpoints.
Yeah. You should be able to protest about anything.
Yeah.
Anything you want.
Universities must secure freedom of speech for visiting speakers.
That's terrifying that they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact we're even just looking, saying that out loud.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Do you have student groups not been quite right on for a while?
Well, they've banned newspapers and things like that.
Yeah.
What happened to just listening to it or reading it and then having a dignified argument about why it's wrong?
I don't know.
Well, they need to be protecting that.
Well, I mean, the French have just set fire to cars about it, so I think we still do take quite a mild line.
I admire the way the French.
Yeah, just instantly set fire to the whole Paris.
But that is their background, isn't it? Revolution,
rebellion.
Oh yeah,
completely.
That's their history. That's everything.
Whereas we just say no, this person is deplatformed.
Yeah.
Which is a bit
and then sulk.
Comparison. Yeah, exactly.
And have,
precisely. The Guardian went with the same photo as the Indie, I think.
Yeah.
The baffled-looking builders. Each with the
flagpole erectors, we're calling them.
Flagpole erectors, yeah.
The Times going with HS2. I mean, this is up your alley.
It is. This is. I mean,
what a joke.
Yeah.
HS2. Embarrassing.
So the high-speed trains are going to run slowly as well. And have you seen that? Even though they're
going to run slowly.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is just like there's very little good news coming out of this story.
How much does it cost us so far?
It was meant to be 3.30. It was meant to be 32 billion, and is it not now back up to 100
billion?
And that's even after the scope has been cut. It's no longer
100 billion, folks, for a train that can't go fast. Slow speed too.
Slow speed too. Yeah. It's and whether or not it actually has the effect that it was supposed to on the rest of the railway network is TBC. Purely because it doesn't go from where it was supposed to where it was supposed to. So it's incomplete.
I mean, it is almost impossible to imagine cocking something up as badly as this.
Well, there's probably more to come. I feel as though this story is going to keep running.
It's going to
run
more than the train will.
More than the train will, certainly. We're going to get more out of it as a nation, as something to whinge about than
and
a train
rightly
to ride.
so.
Yeah, no, completely. I think
look at all the consultants that have stuffed their pockets with our money.
Honestly, I wish that somebody had told me to be a railway consultant when I was sort of going. They didn't mention that at school.
Mention that in the careers.
What qualifications do I need to be a fat cat?
I just think you have to be fat.
Yeah, possibly, and wear a high vis and nod in a hard hat.
And you know, occasionally put a swag bag on your shoulder and laugh
exactly.
Maniacally.
It does feel a bit like that. I wonder if there is a villain. There'll be a scapegoat somewhere.
There needs to be a full, absolutely unbridled inquiry into this and look at everybody's paycheck and every single penny going in and out.
Not a full inquiry, but there will be somebody who's blamed for it. There'll be somebody who's blamed and given the boot. Somebody will be fired from a big consultancy firm and then turn up at another one, possibly on a higher salary.
Possibly on a higher salary with a pocket load of cash.
Yeah, precisely.
The other story is it's picnic time. Are you a picnicker?
I am a picnicker, yeah.
You like?
I'm quite committed.
Why do you like picnics?
I'm quite committed.
Are you
to the
committed?
Picnic. Yeah,
right.
I have a picnic rug.
Oh, that is deep.
I have a picnic rug with little eyelets in the corner so I can stake it down so it doesn't blow away. It's slightly reflective on the bottom, so you're insulated, so
the damp can't.
The inevitable damp doesn't or last night's cider.
And do you have a picnic basket?
I do. I have a picnic
proper
basket,
wicker
wicker one that has plates
you are dedicated.
clipped in and cutlery, and again like quite a nice insulated little cubby inside. I've got a couple of those actually, but I've got one that's right by the front door for, I would say,
emergency picnics.
Yeah, so I can just chuck some stuff in there and head out to the heat.
What is your go-to emergency picnic
It's really
food?
whatever I have, but I do keep a bottle of something chilled in the fridge door at all times.
What, milk?
Yeah, oat milk. Very, very off oat milk. No, something fizzy, something quite nice, and sort of dips. Some just like bread and butter is like a nice baguette with a nice butter.
Yeah, you don't
really
go the whole hog and make salads and.
I have made salads.
Picnic pies and things like that.
I made Scotch eggs once from scratch. That was probably my most audacious. I just wanted to see if it could be done, and it could. Very tasty. A fresh Scotch egg is
I know.
nice.
I've got a butcher down the road that does those.
I honestly, it's much nicer when you've paid somebody else to do it and you haven't covered your
kitchen in breadcrumbs.
And fat, and the other.
Well,
layers.
I mean, look, I wish you well with your emergency picnic.
I haven't read this. The 10 foods the nutritionist avoids. I'm like absolutely disinterested in that. I think.
No, I mean.
Picnics should be joyous.
Yeah, they really should, and to avoid anything that really needs a knife and fork. I mean, that's
that's the thing. You're limited by the physicality of a picnic rather than by the the nutritional. Yeah. I don't want to be thinking.
I just think sitting on the ground after 5 minutes, I'm bored of it. Anyway, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute joy and privilege as ever. We'll see you very, very soon.
Indeed.
Ed Wiseman there taking us through the papers. Now it is just you and me, and keeping an eye on the news feeds as well to see if anything has changed. It doesn't appear that anything has at the moment. But I will be checking in on the situation with Iran and Israel, the war, in a few moments' time. And then it's over to the phone-in where I'll be asking you, how much should we now be getting involved in this situation on behalf of Donald Trump?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you, and if you're watching me on television, I am sorry, but I am looking up at screens at the moment to see if there is anything new on the Iran-Israel war. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, is saying that we need to have calm, not only for those involved, but for the whole region and for international peace and security at large. There's also the information that we had earlier that Vladimir Putin is urging for peace with Iran and Israel, and to stop the fighting, which seems to be an extraordinary request coming from a man whose own backyard is anything but peaceful. He said that all sides should look for ways to end the fighting. The Russian president said Moscow conveyed its ideas on how to achieve peace to the parties involved. He said he was in contact with Trump and Israel on the conflict, and nothing about Putin said Iranian society was consolidating around its political leadership. Well, that's what he wants to have happen, and Russia and Iran would be able to continue working in nuclear energy. Putin wants the Iranian society to consolidate around the Ayatollah because he doesn't want regime change. That would be the worst thing for President Putin. This is why he's urging peace. It has got nothing to do with peace, for the sake of peace. So I want to have a little bit of a deeper dive into this, if I can. And joining me, hang on a sec, it's Martha Miller is joining me now to discuss this with me. Foreign policy consultant and analyst at the National Security Institute at George Mason University. Martha, thank you so much for joining me. Quite a lot of jaw, but also quite a bit of war as well. Those comments from Vladimir Putin seem to be a bit rich.
Laughable, I think, is a good way to describe it, in my opinion. I think, look, he benefits from the current Iranian regime. He is getting, Shahed drones from the Iranians. So, anything that's degrading the Iranian capabilities is degrading Russia's capabilities in its fight against Ukraine. So this is not something that he would have wanted. And certainly he would like to see peace, and he would like to see the Ayatollah remain in place and the entire regime in place. Because, look, this is part of the, I used to work for President Bush, and there was the famous term axis of evil, but I think it's pretty clear we've got another one now, and it's Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea. The Iranians even have a manufacturing facility for drones in Russia, which they put together a few years ago. So they are working quite closely together. I think the best thing that can happen for all of us is for Iran to be denuclearized. I think President Trump is offering them the chance to do that themselves, but it doesn't look like that's likely.
It's the language and the words that are being used at the moment are fascinating to me. And by the way, I used the term axis of evil earlier as well, so we're clearly of a similar vintage. But the language that I'm hearing, Donald Trump, for example, saying that we need a complete surrender. And that they should have done a deal with me when there was, in 2018, there appeared to be a perfectly good deal already in operation before he ripped it up. He doesn't believe in a ceasefire. He doesn't want a ceasefire. He not only wants a surrender, but he wants access to Iranian soil to go in with Israel, potentially boots on the ground, and get rid of any of their nuclear capability.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, hold on a second. I have a dog problem right now.
That's all right. I thought we could hear something in the background.
I apologize.
Okay. This is what happens. It's just the world we live in.
No, I'm sorry. The sun is like shining as well. We just had a thunderstorm, but anyway, yeah. Look, I actually thought that was pretty funny. I mean, Trump's language is always entertaining, to say, at a minimum. And look, I really think he means it. And honestly, the United States, we need to reestablish deterrence. Deterrence is what keeps us safe. It is a concept that a lot of people, there are people who think that we should just give in to bullies. And at the end of the day, you have to strike back. And the only thing they will respect is power and being strong. So I hope that President Trump, means what he says. We've had too many red lines that the American presidents have talked about red lines before, and they didn't.
Syria and places like that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
But you look, though, this is where it becomes impossible for a surrender, though, doesn't it? Because you have the Ayatollah Khomeini, who is not going to want oversight on his nuclear abilities. America and Israel know that if this job isn't completed to 100%, then what's happened so far has been literally a waste of time. That Iran cannot, in their view, be left with any nuclear capability.
Yeah, and this is something that the last 4 American presidents have said this. They have pursued it in different ways, but clearly the negotiation route has not worked. So I agree. I think the Ayatollah has no choice in a way. We know that's the way he's going to behave. He's not going to surrender. It's not in his DNA. So it's not in the DNA of his regime. And the Israelis have degraded his regime as well. They've gone after and taken out numerous members of his leadership team. And then when they've replaced people, they have gone after them as well. So, they've basically said, if you want to live, if you want to be safe, basically don't accept the promotion. So it's a very interesting twist on, I don't think I don't think there's necessarily like an aim for an actual regime change, certainly not from the United States at this point, certainly not the Trump administration. But in effect, it seems like that's pretty close to it.
And we're hearing as well that Israel clearly wants a regime change, right? They'd like a popular uprising. And in a way, that would save Donald Trump as well from having to get involved if there was a popular uprising. Because Israel have been bombing the religious police. They've been going after other targets that are not in a sense military. They're definitely not facilities, nuclear or otherwise. So they are clearly hoping to push the Iranian people back to a point of the Arab Spring where they will rise up against this regime.
Yeah, and the hard part is, but then who would rule the country? And so I think no matter what happens, there's not going to be a great outcome. But of course, I think I said that about Syria not too long ago as well.
Yeah.
So, and there probably isn't a great outcome no matter what. But I think at the same time, look, whoever, if there is some sort of uprising, I don't think we want whoever that is. We don't know who it would be.
Exactly.
We don't want them to have nuclear capabilities either. And I know their Arab neighbors don't want it any more than the Israelis or we do. So it's, it's. I think it would be doing. I think Israel is doing the world a service right now.
What do you think? Look, we know that Israel wants to complete the job, right? In Iran, they want they want the nuclear sites done with, and the former nuclear site. They desperately want the Fordo site. They are absolutely concerned. This is a very deep bunker, potentially half a mile down. That this is where they're enriching uranium. This is where they're converting it and using it, and plan to use it to make weapons. They won't consider this task done until that bunker has been got rid of. They cannot get rid of this bunker. They don't have the bombs. America has the bombs. Do you believe that Trump will go ahead and use this bomb in Iran?
I think that he has certainly signaled that and I think there's been a lot left to interpretation in terms of the amount of information that's been shared. And I think he certainly implied that is on the table. I think no one has dissuaded us as the public from thinking that that's on the table. But I think that's not the only option. Also, those bombs are actually likely to do the job, but we don't know right? So, I mean, another scenario could be providing enough air support and other capabilities in the region so that the Israelis could go in, you know, commandos or special forces could go in and do it on the ground. I wonder if that, you know, maybe that's going to be the play. Certainly, you know, within the realm of possibility. You know, you have the USS Vincent is already in the region. The Nimitz is on its way. So that would be, you know, two carrier groups in that one region is pretty significant, pretty unusual. So, and then of course the B-52s are on Diego Garcia. Yeah. So we would need approval from the British government for that. Although I think the B-52s probably could do it from elsewhere as well. So.
Well, the BS-2 Spirit in Missouri could fly from Missouri and do, that's the stealth bomber. Right. So they could do it from Missouri and fly back. They would need fueling, presumably, but apart from that, they could, from what my understanding is, that they wouldn't need to use the B-52 necessarily. But if Donald Trump were to do that, is there concern, do you think, that this would broaden the war, if you like? Pakistan is already saying that they would get involved if anything nuclear was used. Russia won't be happy with that. North Korea won't be happy with that. China have been taking planes into Iran with supply planes with what we don't know. And North Korea is being eerily quiet, which I don't like. What if Trump gets involved, even in this regard, even if it is just to supply cover for Israeli forces to get onto Iranian soil, what could be the repercussions of that back at home, first of all?
In the United States, you mean political repercussions, or yeah. I mean. Well, he's already heard from people in you know, within his you know, kind of world of supporters. There are people like Tucker Carlson who've been critical. I think even Tulsi Gabbard, his own you know, director of national intelligence, I think is not.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I heard earlier on saying, yeah. Who would have thought?
Yeah. So, you know, but look, you know what? They can't compete with Donald Trump. You know, it's Donald Trump who got all of these people excited. These folks are sort of on the margins in terms of, you know, they've been. I don't think they have the ability to compete with him with Trump's base. Yeah. He just, you know, has that ability to inspire the folks who voted for him. So
what about the repercussions in the Middle East?
I mean, look, I don't think the Saudis would be unhappy.
Yeah.
You know, I think, I mean, obviously we've got a major base in Qatar. And so, you know, but the Qataris, you know, they like to be, you know, they like to work it with everyone. So I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, I really think their Arab neighbors are going to be relieved if their nuclear capabilities are destroyed or dismantled in some fashion. And yeah, so I actually am not too concerned. I think it'd actually be a positive. And yeah,
well, let's hope. Let's hope. It's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Martha Miller there, foreign policy consultant and analyst at the National Security Institute at George Mason University. Quick break, back in a second.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And you know, yet again, we're talking about, you know, the world being destabilised. And for now, I don't know why people aren't calling a duck a duck if it walks like one and quacks like one. It is one. Iran and Israel's war. I mean, they are literally throwing bombs at each other and missiles at each other. That sounds like a war to me. There's been lots of movement in the region, lots of pieces of the chessboard being put into place, a lot of planes being moved, a lot of ships being moved, a lot of weapons being moved both into Iran and around the region. We have bases in Oman, in the United Arab Emirates, in Qatar, and Cyprus, which is incredibly important. I spent a lot of time in Cyprus, and that was always because it's the gateway to the Middle East. That's what it was always. That's why we've kept it as a military base. We know that B-52s have now been moved into Cyprus as well. But earlier on, I was talking to the defence analyst and author Paul Beaver about the RAF base in Akrotiri in Cyprus, and discussed how it would be a key position for Donald Trump. But, and this is the important thing, to use that or Diego Garcia to take off from for an attack, Trump needs the express permission of Britain to do it, of Keir Starmer to do it. Here's what he had to say.
He does. So this is the sovereign base areas, and there are two major sovereign base areas. One is Episcopi, which is basically it's the headquarters. It's where the army are, where the resident infantry battalion or two of those, with one company usually deployed forward to Jordan. Akrotiri is a major base. It has at any one time at least a dozen Typhoon aircraft operating. It has tankers supporting them, A400M transport aircraft, Chinook helicopters. It's got equipment for Royal Marines in case they have to. You remember what something like 6 months ago we were thinking we might have to bring people out of Lebanon. So there are lots of contingencies in place, nice big runway, lots of parking space. And so, yes, the Americans could base there. The Americans have got bases and basing rights, of course, in Spain and in Italy, in Sigonella, in Sicily, for example, and recently agreements with Greece. There's also Turkey, a NATO nation, which is right next door. And we have to remember it's not just Britain, this is NATO we're talking about. Our carrier task group has gone through the region and is now between India and Singapore. So they're well out of this. But the Americans have already indicated through this, they have an agreement with the United Kingdom to be able to stage aeroplanes. So Mildenhall has become the place where the tankers are going, and also where the F-22 Raptor air defense aircraft are staging through. The crew will probably have some rest, and then they're going to be deployed to Jordan. Jordan's very much on the front line of this as well. So there's a lot going on at the moment, as well as, of course, we're still watching Ukraine. We're watching Russian flights over the Baltic, British aircraft operating out of Poland in support of NATO and in support of our Baltic allies that don't have fighter aircraft like Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. So, boy, are our armed forces busy.
So that Paul Beaver there, he's absolutely brilliant. I love Paul. Anyway, so look, that's the situation that we're in at the moment. We know that there was a Cobra meeting as well late yesterday, early evening yesterday. I haven't seen any results of that. We've had no statement from that. And that's where the decisions would have been made about whether we were going to give permission to Donald Trump or not. And my suspicion is that for operational reasons, this is why we haven't heard anything. So my suspicion is that permission has been given. I don't know. I'm just saying that where there's silence, you tend to fill the gaps. So I don't know if we'll ever hear, or when we'll hear, or if we'll hear, or even if that's the case. But the question that I have for you is, how much should we be getting involved in this? Now, look, we have been involved, right? Make no mistake about this. We supported the Americans when they bombed the Houthis in Yemen. We supported them with air cover. We've been all over the whole of Israel supporting there. We are involved. We've got aircraft there. We've got soldiers. The whole works. How much more do we get involved in this? Because that would be involvement. It would be involvement to do that. Do we offer air cover? I don't know. What do you think? What should we be doing? Give me a call, 03444 499 1000. Sheldon is in Swansea. Good morning, Sheldon. How are you?
I'm all right, my darling. How are you, Petrie? All right, love?
I'm all right, my love. It's so lovely. It's always lovely to hear from you.
And always lovely to speak to you.
What do you make of this, Sheldon?
Well, a very serious issue at the moment, obviously, isn't it? I'm aware of your background with the military and how important it is to you in terms of understanding how our military work. So I don't wish to be offensive in any way, but I've got a problem basically with Britain not being Great Britain, but being the UK. And I think that we have a problem specifically with always getting involved in intransigent wars, but especially this one between Israel and Iran, where we have two completely different ideologies that are never going to stand down against each other and will fight to the death. And I believe that if we carry on encouraging them, one side or the other, eventually it would end up in a complete disaster. Now, I think this happens also in other intransigent wars that we've been involved in. I think politically, from our point of view, it would be a great idea if we decided that for once we stood down and became, this is going to shock you, a completely neutral country.
Listen, Sheldon, I hope you haven't misunderstood me talking about what's going on militarily for any want for us to be involved.
No,
I personally think we should not get involved with this at all. I just think we will. Because we are so used to playing America's poodle. I mean, look what happened with 9/11.
Thank you so much for that.
That 9/11 was the first time ever in the 80-year history of NATO that Article 5 was triggered. Hit one, hit all, right? And we jumped to defend and support America. Not that Trump would ever thank us for that, and not that he does. And we've never sent him a bill for it either. All of the NATO got involved in that pointless war that nobody won. It was not won. America has never won anything it's got involved in. Vietnam, it didn't win.
Thank you
Iraq,
so much.
it didn't win. We should not be getting involved.
It never won. No.
But we are. That's the problem. We've already been more involved than we know with Israel and supporting the Americans.
I agree with you completely, and I understand now. I understand you better than I thought I did initially. My point is, if we were to stop being part of the so-called policemen of the world, which we aren't, because we don't have the strength.
Not anymore.
And we don't have the ability to do it.
No.
Our armed forces are wonderful people, but they will never, ever, ever, ever be able to take down or defeat an enemy the size of Russia or China or anyone else in this world. It is pointless. If we declared neutrality and we became a proper neutral state, like Switzerland would be a prime example, we would be able to say we are no longer the enemies of anybody. We are no longer going to get involved in anybody else's wars or conflicts. We are going to look after ourselves, and we are going to drag all the money, the safe money, into London, into this country, and sort out all the problems that we have in this country financially. And I think it would be a great wake-up call. But unfortunately, I do understand that there's a lot of nostalgia militarily, and I do love our armed forces for what they've gone through in the past and what they go through today.
They're amazing. Every man and woman of them, they are incredible people.
They are amazing, but they are being taken for a ride.
Yeah, they are being, and they're being taken advantage of. Look, you know, there was a time where, because militarily, I don't believe that even with the American military, there is a better trained armed force in the world.
No, there isn't.
The British military is the best trained. They are the best in the world, bar none. And I think that we used to be in that position, but we are. But do you know what, Sheldon? It comes down to blooming ego. Because these prime ministers, these prime ministers think they're Billy Big Boy, and they want to be on the big boys' table, and they want to play with the big boys' toys, and we're not in that position anymore.
You were taking the words out of my mouth. My next point I was going to make was there is no gravitas amongst any of the world leaders at the moment at all.
None of them.
None.
Like children, squabbling.
In fact, I believe. Can I say one thing? Very quickly.
Yeah.
I think Netanyahu has the ego of the GDP of Israel. I think that every one of the world leaders has the GDP of each country that they think they belong to, and they have no concept at all of anything to do with empathy or anything to do with wisdom. Because leaders need wisdom.
Yeah.
And there are no wise leaders in this world.
I completely agree with you. And I mean, you can't step too far away from the belief that Bibi Netanyahu has done all of this in order to keep his position of power. I mean, that's how little I trust these world leaders at the moment. Putin's the same. Trump's the same.
The man is terrified of the Knesset. It's obvious.
Trump is only where he is because he didn't want to go to jail. We know that.
Yes, of course, because he can't face charges either.
No, well, he knows the orange suit will clash with his tan, so he's not happy with that. Yeah. But no, look, listen. We're pretty much on the same page, actually, Sheldon. I just, you know, the way I talk about these situations is very from a position of knowledge and experience.
I know you do.
But I don't. I'm not. War is. I've spent time in conflict in war zones, and it's disgusting. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I would like the world to be at peace with itself, but. I just don't believe it will be.
No, I don't believe it either. And I'm terrified of it unless we step away from it.
Yeah, well, we're no longer we shouldn't be at the big boys' table. We've got no right to be. You know, if Trump wants to pretend to be this great, you know, whatever he thinks he is, this great narcissistic, I'm the king of the world, let him do it. But he will pay. Indeed. Well, actually, the American people will pay, not him. The American people, tragically, will pay.
Anyway, the question was, should we get involved?
Yeah.
And I basically believe we should step away right now. And if there is any special relationship, it's to ourselves.
We haven't got a special relationship with America.
The same thing as he believes about America.
Yeah. Yeah. Britain first. Well, in terms of getting involved in wars. The problem is, I think that I don't think that we will step away. I don't think Keir Starmer's got it in him.
No, I don't
think.
No. I think Starmer's going. I think Starmer's going to do a Thatcher and say, "Oh, look what I did."
All prime ministers want to be wartime prime ministers.
Of course they do.
Because that's their big. They want to be Winston Churchill.
Well,
Boris
look what
Johnson,
happened to Churchill. When Churchill finished his warmongering, nothing happened after that.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was out of power. That always happens as well. Anyway, yep. Sheldon, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed with that. For that, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you. I've got to take a quick break, but I'll be back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, good morning. It's Petrie here with you at the moment until 1 o'clock, and we're talking about the situation, the war between Israel and Iran at the moment, and the very real probability that Trump will lend his physical support to Israel in terms of bombing a particular bunker, because Israel don't have the hardware. They just don't have the weapons to do it. So what will be the outcome, and how much are we involved? Well, look, we're already involved. There are American planes moving into Cyprus and into Diego Garcia. Both of those are British bases. They need permission from us if they are to mount. They can't just do it. They can't just fly out of there and bomb another country. They need our permission to do that. If we give permission to do that, then we have picked a side, if you like, and we are therefore involved to some degree. There's also some suggestion that we may be offering air cover, and we will be offering tanker cover, so refueling for aircraft in the area, Israeli aircraft and American aircraft in the area. So, but if that's all we do, is that going too far? It will be seen as involvement. We are involved. There's no doubt about that. But I wonder if you think that we should be involved or we shouldn't be involved. This from Andrew. It says, if the Iranians are stupid enough to mess around with the Strait of Hormuz, and that's why we were talking about this earlier. This is where about 30 to 40% of all the West's oil comes down the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, and around the Gulf, around Hormuz. It's a bit like that, if you can see. And I don't know how to say that. If you're listening on radio, but it's incredibly important, and Iranians sort of, again, forgive the term nuclear option, would be to destroy that and to stop the oil coming through. That would completely wreck the world economy. I mean, completely, it would devastate us, and not just financially, but in the blackouts and things like that. It would be completely devastating. But Andrew says if they did mess around with the Strait of Hormuz, then the Americans won't muck around and bomb the hell out of Iran's military capability. Oil and gas prices are already shooting up because of this mess. At my local petrol station, diesel is shot at 4 pence a litre in a day. They will be price gouging as well, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. But that would be the last ditch attempt by the Ayatollah. We've got a few steps to take before Iran would do that, because they need the money as well. But interesting point, Andrew, and I can't say that I don't agree with you. Neil says, why the hell is Starmer holding a Cobra meeting when the US and Israel don't give a fig what he thinks? Well, they do when they need to use him, don't they? They need to use Starmer at the moment to have planes take off from Akrotiri and from Diego Garcia, so, you know, whatever. This one, John from Sutton says, the US getting involved in the strikes on Iran and all the talk of regime change is sure to make the communist regime in China even more paranoid than usual. Will this worsen China's relations with the West? And should we expect trouble in the Indo-Pacific and even closer cooperation between Russia, China and North Korea? John, good questions. Yes, and yes, basically. Yeah, I mean, yes, there will be closer cooperation between Russia, China and North Korea, but we haven't heard from North Korea, which is really worrying me, because normally they're all gobby, aren't they? Old Kim, he's quite gobby, but yes, and I think Pakistan as well in that as well we can include. Yes, I think that Russia doesn't want regime change, so Russia wants the Ayatollah to stay exactly where he is, which is why he's calling for peace. If he doesn't get his peace, if America get involved, then what happens to the bromance that isn't between Putin and Trump? God knows what happens to Ukraine as well. But will it worsen China's relation? The thing is, China needs the West. So I think China are going to play a very clever game here. They're not going to be too overt, but they will be extremely covert on it, because they need the West's money. They know that. We all know that. But China needs us to keep buying stuff. So I think they're cleverer than that. But I do think that covertly they will be livid. If I could put it in that way. And that's from John. Good questions, though. Very good questions. Let's go to the calls. Stephen is in Liverpool. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, Petrie.
Hello. Now, you think that we should be helping?
Straight in there. You only deal with bullies. We're hold of the Trump's coattails at the moment, Sam. You know, you see him on the news before he's going, well, I'm going to decide right at the last minute what to do. You know exactly what you're going to do, Donald. You're straight in there. And you're either going to back away like a big coward, or you're going to go straight in there because your generals will tell you to do it. So we'll be behind you because we'll get dragged into it. But remember, I was telling you the other week about Brexit and how badly it was done. You know, we are disliked. The rest of Europe doesn't like us, so we might as well hang on to America. And get some sort of power this way, and get some sort of standing in the world this way. Even though I don't believe in any innocent people dying, that type of thing. But the thing is, you're going to have to get rid of these Iranian guys that have got the atomic bombs, because they wouldn't hesitate to use them one bit. If there's
No, I agree. And look, I don't like.
The thing is, Petrie, Russia threaten America with atomic weapons, and they threaten each other, but it'll never happen. But you've got some nutter in the Iranian government that will do it. They make them, they're hiding behind the religious thing, aren't they? That someone will do it. So
yeah, I wouldn't trust. Listen, don't get me wrong. I would not trust Iran with nuclear weapons. There's no country, no person in the world would trust Iran with nuclear weapons. The regime, I have to be very, because I think the Iranian people don't trust him either. So the regime, which is brutal.
Well, that's why they're all queuing to get out of Tehran now.
Yeah, and God bless them. I mean, the Iranian people have been through so much and deserve to be free. But the one chance is, and this is what Israel are hoping for, is a regime change created by the people of Iran, as opposed to an outside source like Donald Trump saying we might kill the Ayatollah. You know, because that would be state interference, that's state murder, that would not be accepted.
Do you remember before you were saying that Putin was trying to get everyone to sort of, you know, calm down, this, that and the other. And Putin is absolutely petrified if we go in and sort Iran out.
Oh, he's terrified.
He's petrified.
He needs Iran.
That's where he's getting his drones from, that type of thing. But the thing is, you'll soon see if we go in, sort Iran out, Putin will gradually start backing away from where he is in the Ukraine. His big speeches like "I'm the big I am" sort of thing will go into dust, because he'll know that the between ourselves and America, we're not going to take any messing. You know, I don't think we should have any troops in there on the ground, but you don't need that type of sort of warfare now. It can be done from aircraft carriers, drones, and in the air. It can all be done from without anyone being on the ground. And so if anyone's on the ground, it'd just be special forces.
Yeah, the trouble is that wars these days, and particularly this one, if it spreads, will not be fought in one country. And if Iran has any of the long-range weapons left that it is attacking Israel with, it can very easily hit Cyprus and hit Akrotiri. And if I were sitting around a table pushing chess pieces around, that's what I would tell my military to do, would be to hit.
Well, I certainly would. If I was looking for property now, I wouldn't be looking for property in Cyprus.
No, because, and the troops are now on standby. They're on, you know, they're alert.
That's the only way we get involved physically, is if they touch Cyprus, because you know, RAF Akrotiri is ours.
Yeah. And I've spent a lot of time there. With
all this, I mean, you're never going to sort the Israeli problem out and the Palestinian problem out. It's never going to. Since time began, it's never going to be sorted out.
The only solution is a two-state solution, and Israel don't want that.
It is, yeah. But the thing is, this Netanyahu fella, he's not much better than the people running Iran. But however, he's got America behind him, where Iran's got, you know. It's got people,
Russia, China, North Korea, Pakistan.
But none of those are joining, though. None of those are joining, because, as you said before, China's only interested in two things. China's interested in is trade and invading Taiwan. That's it. And they have plenty of chances to invade Taiwan, and they've backed off. So it shows you what China are made of, which is they're just traders. You know, they've got a massive army, all this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah.
Untested. Never been tested, their military.
No. And, you know, North Korea, he's just a big mouth, and the people just do exactly what he tells them, because they're so frightened of him.
But he's also bonkers, and he's got weapons.
Well, he is, yeah.
That he is dying to use. He is dying to use them.
The first time Trump was in, he went straight over to him and said, you know, I met him on the border, and called him Rocket Man. And he just belittled him. He made them look stupid.
Well, they're both stupid. They're both.
It's no use, I know, but it's no use anyone complaining about Trump, because if the Americans had put somebody up in the last election that was better than him, they wouldn't have him for a second term. They wouldn't have a convicted felon doing a second term as a president of the United States. You know, you might as well.
No, and he's also
someone like that.
Yeah, he's also managed to convince his base, hasn't he, the MAGA crowd, in the most mind-blowing way, to just follow him like lemmings off a cliff. I mean, they'd do anything for him. They'd die for him.
Well, there's 300 million people in America, in North America, and 72 million people voted for him. So where's the... Okay, so you take the children out of it. So where's the...
Well, a lot of people didn't even bother voting, which is what happens when people don't vote.
If you don't vote, you can't speak.
Well, and also there's a big investigation.
And the same with what I'm doing over Brexit. Like, we were talking about Brexit the other week, and I know this particular conversation isn't really about Brexit, but it's very similar. If everyone would have voted, and I think voting should be made compulsory. You vote, and we'd still be in. Remember, I said to you that the very next day that I voted Brexit, I had buyer's remorse. Because my city was rebuilt on European money.
Yeah, but nobody told you the truth. That's the problem.
Exactly.
That's the problem. You were lied to.
And this gang of clowns we've got in now, who I sadly voted for, but the thing is that it was a choice between them and Rishi Sunak, and I wasn't voting for a billionaire, so...
you just voted for a millionaire instead.
A millionaire, yeah. Because, I mean, what's £1 million between friends?
Nothing. I mean, I burned through that in a week.
Yeah, and even worse than that, Petrie, he's an Arsenal fan. So, I mean,
no.
Yeah, I had to get football in, didn't I? I had to get football in the conversation. I won't mention Everton, honest. But, no.
Oh, Stephen, I love talking to you as well. You take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you soon. I've got to go because I have a quick break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, good morning. It is Talk and it's Petrie here with you until the top of the hour, which gives us only about 6 minutes. But we're talking about how much Britain should, could or would get involved in what's going on between Israel and Iran, and with a big dollop of Trump in the middle of that. Trump has apparently approved of attack plans for Iran, but is holding off giving the final order to see if Tehran would abandon its nuclear program. Tehran has already said it's not going to surrender. It's not going to surrender because the conditions of the surrender is a full and complete surrender that Trump is insisting on, and that would also involve oversight on knocking out all of their nuclear facilities around the country, and they're not going to agree to that. Gary says, I don't want the UK to be involved in the Israel-Iran war, but my opinion is irrelevant. Whenever America says jump, Britain says how high. It's extremely worrying knowing that Russia, North Korea and China could be getting involved. It's a worrying time, and I doubt Starmer will grow a pair and say no to Trump. I don't trust any of the aforementioned leaders. I agree with you, 100% with you. Starmer wants to. It's all ego. I'm sorry, but it is. It's all of this is about ego. You know, it is just pathetic that Starmer wants to be playing with toys with the big boys. He doesn't want to be relegated to the second table or to the nursery. He wants to be with the big boys, and that is unfortunately where we are. The interesting thing here, though, is of course the impact on Russia if Iran, if there is a regime change. If there's no regime change, then Russia continues to get the weapons that it needs. But if there is a regime change brought about, the only way it can really be done is to be brought about by the Iranian people, then Russia is in trouble. And that would be a good outcome of this, because they would very quickly run out of weapons, and Putin knows that way, which is why he's calling for peace, and he wants peace, so that the Ayatollah will keep giving him drones and missiles and bombs. And so that's why when people say, "Oh yeah, but Trump, Putin wants peace," that's why. Just so you know. So that would be an interesting outcome if that happened. Graham has said Donald Trump may be many things, but he's definitely not stupid. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Look at him with the tariffs. You don't think that's stupid? A lot of what he says is stupid. I mean, today, he's about to bomb another country, and he's sitting there going, "I got flagpoles, best flagpoles in the world. It's got a top." That's what he said. It's got a nice top. I mean, it's either stupid or there's something unhealthy going on. So you and I, Graham, will part friends on that. You have your opinion, and I have mine. I think he's dumb as a box of rocks. But there you go. Sam says it's been one of the most informative shows. Oh, good. I'm glad, Sam. And she said, "Thank you for explaining it." Of course. There's no such thing as a stupid question, right? You can always ask me anything. And if I can, I'll explain it. Sometimes, Kath says, sometimes you have to have the guts to stand up to the bully, because when no one else is left, he will come for you. And that's Catherine in Cardiff. I don't know whether you mean Trump as the bully or you mean the Ayatollah as the bully. Either way, I agree with you. We need to stand up to them. And Pete says, "Please don't let us get involved in another war that isn't ours, sucking up to the Americans yet again. Bet Starmer's thinking a good day to bury bad news." I agree with that as well. Let's talk to Ali, who's in West Yorkshire. Ali, last word goes to you. What do you think? Hi, good morning. What do you make of this? How much should we get involved?
Yeah, I think Britain should definitely not get involved. But obviously it is involved, because it's, shooting down the stuff. And
in Israel, yeah.
Obviously supplied Israel with weapons as well. But I don't think we should. And it's just heartbreaking, really, to see. Obviously, being a Muslim, we have a connection with that region, Middle East. It's just heartbreaking to see yet another Muslim country being destroyed.
But isn't Iran also being destroyed from within, but with the regime that is there?
Oh yeah. No,
do you support the Iranian regime?
No, don't get me wrong. The regime is really unpopular with the people. Like,
it had 2 million of them shot. So yeah.
Well, no, yeah. But it just feels. I'm just telling you how I feel as Muslim. We just feel like we've seen Muslim countries being destroyed, people killed. It feels like it's a continuation of the Crusades that started in 600 AD, and it's not stopped, and it won't stop. That's what we feel like. People in Muslim countries are just being bombed into submission. That's what it feels like to us.
I can understand why it feels like that to you, but when you look at a regime like the Ayatollah and the regime there, which is evil to its own people, and Syria, which was evil to its own people, that just because it is a Muslim country doesn't mean that the Muslims there want the regime that's there. Look at the Taliban in Afghanistan. That again is a hideous regime.
We also look at Palestine as well. We've seen the genocide there.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that's not what we're talking about. I absolutely agree with you. It's disgusting what's happening in Palestine with Gaza. I absolutely am horrified by it. But what I'm talking about is when you're saying that it's horrible to see Muslim countries being bombed, some of those Muslim countries, the regimes themselves are not supportive of the Muslim people, particularly in women in Iran and women in Afghanistan, and they have a right to a healthy life living as a Muslim without fear of abuse or murder at the hands of their own regime. So these regimes are not perfect. If they were perfect, loving Muslim countries where people were treated as equally as they are in the Quran, I'm with you. They should not